Gangsters, you've done a lot of damage to the Rock and Roll Express, to the Armstrongs, to yours truly. Now look what you're looking at right here. The thugs. T is for terrible, H is for hell, U is for ugly, and G is for jail. Cause a thug can't spell. But one thing we spell, that's pain, and we spell it F-I-S-T. You got the Buck Snort Blaster and the Robertson County Redneck, the wild-eyed Southern boy, Tracy Smothers. And what do you expect them to do about it, white boy?
I expect them to stand there and get their butt whooped, because that's exactly what's going to happen, gangsters. You've been running roughshod around Smoky Mountain too long. So guess what's going to happen, tough guys? It's all coming to a screeching halt.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Omnibus edition of our Tracy Smothers episode. As you all know, Tracy unfortunately passed away due to cancer on October the 28th of 2020. And we were blessed to have Tracy on our show a few different times throughout the years. So never before, these episodes have aired before, but they were cut up into different chunks. So never before have they been put together. We decided in an effort to pay honor to Tracy, keep his memory alive, we were going to put these up as a full episode. So the first two parts that you'll hear are from Tracy's appearance on BTT in, I believe it was July of 2017. And then you're going to hear the third part, which was from July of 2019. So hope you enjoy. I want to thank Tracy Smothers for all the memories of over the years that he gave us, and in Smoky Mountain especially, since we covered that entire territory, but everywhere. And R.I.P. Tracy. We'll keep your memory alive, and thanks for all the memories. Enjoy the show.
All right, everybody, I'm sitting here with returning guest, Bobby Blaze, but we brought on a friend of Bobby's, Tracy Smothers. Man, Tracy, thank you for taking some time and coming on Booking the Territory tonight. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, anytime, man. I mean, you know, you do your thing down there with Wildcat Sports, so I'm glad Harper hooked me up with your number and we were able to sit down and do this, so you know how that goes.
Yeah.
Hey, Tracy, welcome to the show. This is a great show, man. I'm glad to be on here. Mike always does a great show, and this Booking the Territory is really awesome. So it's an honor to be here with him and also to have the great Tracy Smothers on Booking the Territory this week, man. Good to hear from you, Tracy.
Yeah, you too, Bobby. You too. When you gonna write another book?
I'm working on one all the time,
books.
Brother. Yeah.
You
saw what I wrote
now,
about
right?
you, that last one. I've written two, yes, sir. Of course, I put you over in it. You know that.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome, my brother. You're welcome.
Hey, Tracy, we all, in my day job in corporate America, I definitely live by Bobby's creed, pin me, pay me. I just, I take the pin and then I hope they pay me. Whatever you say, boss. That's
yeah.
Hey, Tracy, how'd you get, let me ask you a question, man. I know you've done a lot of stuff with Luke's group down in Wildcat, man. And Luke's a long time friend of mine. How long how did you get hooked up with Luke and them down in Wildcat, man?
I've known Luke since he started. When he was altar boy Luke, he used to work ECW.
All right, yeah.
You know, him and Kevin Northcutt and Rodney Mack. You know, whenever we'd be down that area, they'd work out in the ring. And they'd book them some, use them as security, whatever. You know what I mean? You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've known him since he's a kid.
Cool. Okay.
20 years. You know.
Yeah, I know him for a long. I figured that's how you got hooked up with him.
Late 90s. I was in ECW 97 and 99. So 2.5 years. So that's how I know him. That's where I know him from. That's where I met him.
Is that one of your favorite independents to work these days, or what?
Yeah, it is. That's a good one. Yeah, I've done the that bar show they do there every year. The last 3 years now, I've done it. You know.
Yeah, I heard you.
Good time.
Hey, Bobby, I hear he ruffles the feathers of the fans down there pretty well. He does a damn good job of pissing off the Cajuns, from what I understand.
Oh yeah, someone's gonna die. You know, that's the thing. You know. It's a struggle, brother, and somebody's gonna die.
Yeah, it's good time. Always is. Yeah.
Hey, Bobby, I got to ask Tracy a question about Smoky Mountain, about somebody that we're kind of hard on this show sometimes. You think it's safe?
Yeah, Tracy would be straight up with you. You know.
Tracy, man, we're on this show sometimes. I can't lie. When it comes to Tim Horner, we're kind of hard on his Smoky Mountain promos because we do a Smoky Mountain only show and we talk about everything and whatnot. Let me ask, what were your thoughts on Tim Horner and Smoky Mountain Wrestling? As far as, I mean, he seems like he's a really, really great worker, but we kind of make fun of his promos sometimes. So, just thoughts on Tim Horner and Smoky Mountain, because I think you got to work with him a lot there, didn't you?
Well, yeah, I've known Tim since 1983. Yeah, I've known Tim a long time. I don't remember how long was he there, Bobby? How long? I'm trying to remember.
I think you left in maybe 2 years because he came in 92. I came in 93 when you and I first met, and I think he was gone maybe early 94. I'm pretty sure. So maybe
a couple years.
First 2 years, maybe year and a half, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, Jim was always good to me too. But you know, I think when what Mike's talking about, they do the booking the territory in the Smoky Mountain show. They really bury him for his interview skills, if you will, not his work rate. And of course, you and I got to work with him and get to know him a little bit better. So you know, they just bury him for his interview, if you will.
We just, Bobby, we gotta have fun some way, right? So
absolutely. No. I'm kind of bringing Tracy up to speed.
Yeah.
There's nothing personal against him, and I always put him over. But yeah, I think his interview skills, they browbeat him to death on those. Is what I let Tracy know about.
Yeah. No, he's a damn good wrestler though, from what I can see though, from everything I watched.
Yeah. Him and Brad too were a great team, underrated tag team. You know, both great workers. No, I've known him since then, and in '83, since I started. He started before I did, and gosh, he hadn't worked in a while. I guess it's been years. But he was there helping Jimmy run it, and you know, run the whole thing. He was right under Jimmy, and of course Sandy Scott. And I worked with him once there. We did a thing, and all we did was it was for Morristown, his hometown, and a title match. You know, Smoky Mountain title match, and you know, it's like a babyface match, kind of rough babyface match. You know, not really an issue. We did some interviews, did us little TVs for it. We didn't go around the loop with it. I wish we would have, but we had a hell of a match. Went real good, and people were really with Tim because his hometown, Morristown, you know.
Yeah.
And he wasn't his interview. You remember Mike Rotundo?
Yeah,
how Mike Rotundo was such a great worker, but as a babyface, his interviews wasn't that good because he's a real serious guy. Tim, same way, great wrestler. I always thought if Tim would have been a heel, he could have done a better interview because he could be himself. You know what I mean? You know,
I think you might be right on that because I've done a loop with him one time. We worked like 3 or 4 nights in a row, just a little baby face, a little bit rough, you know, but no promos and didn't take it around a loop or anything. We done a weekend 3 or 4 nights in a row. But yeah, that's probably a pretty good comparison, man. But you know, Tracy is like a lot of guys, man. It's like you remember. It's just like Brad, how funny Brad was outside the ring. Or even Brian Lee. Brian Lee, you know, he was such a character outside the ring, but once that camera went on, there was, Brad was, you know, one of the greatest workers ever. You know, I loved Brad to death, and I'm sure you did too. But you know, once the cameras went on, they kind of lost that little bit of.
Brian,
steam.
I thought Brian did real good interviews when them with Sonny. Hold on.
Yes, I was going to say when they put him with Tammy, he did, man.
Yeah,
he started coming into his own as a heel there.
Hey guys. My girlfriend is calling me. Can I answer this? She don't know I'm doing this. I forgot to tell her. She'll call me 100 times if I don't get it. She's got to go to work tonight. If I don't get up with her, you know what I mean? You know, can y'all call me? Give me like 2 minutes and call me right back.
Yeah,
sure.
Can we do that? Can we
text
do that?
Text me, Tracy, and I'll call you back as soon as you're done.
All right, that number. All right, I will.
Yeah.
Okay, let me do this. All right.
All right, cool. I know that
he's gonna give out the damn number on the air there, Mike. 555.
I'm gonna have to block it out, man. Text me. What was that about the 9-minute mark, man? Let me write that down. Tracy said, 9-minute mark, block out number. There we go. Edit it out. Ah, boy. Oh, shoot, man. You know, it's funny, man. We were talking about Horner again this week, man. We actually said, this was offline. We're still recording, Bobby. So,
Okay.
Cause I'll just ring. Yeah. I'll ring him back. Right. I'll ring him back as soon as he texts me. But, man, we were talking about Tim Horner. I don't know if we said it on the show or not, but man, I'm actually going to miss when he leaves Smoky Mountain. Because
No, you won't.
yes, well, no. Here's why I say that.
I'm just kidding.
No, because I'm gonna miss it because it's actually a source of entertainment from a podcasting perspective. It might not be good for TV, but for what we do, it's good humor.
I know. I got what you meant. I understand. I just try to make you laugh there.
Yeah.
I saw I think we was in Jellicoe, Tennessee, and I saw the wheels coming loose, man. And I said, he won't be here much longer. I could just tell.
Oh, did you? When it was all unfolding?
That I found out here recently, listening to Corny's podcast, and by the way, you done a great job on the 605 the other day, man. I was surprised, and I like that I don't know who is going to be the co-host the way Brian does that. So when you came on, I was like, yay for you, because I'm a fan of yours, and that's straight shoot, because you do such a good podcast here on the Book in the Territory. But anyway, there was a couple times in the locker room at TVs, and I just kept thinking, man, there's more to it than this. There's more to it than this. Something else is going on, because even I wrote positive stuff about Tim in my book. I tried not to bury anyone. I tried not to talk about the bad stuff about anyone. But anyway, my point is, I saw it probably 3, if not 4 months out. I saw the wheels kind of rolling off the wagon, if you will. There was a couple of TVs there, and they was just going in separate directions. And I think Tim was trying to get some people in his camp. And man, I'm a Jim Cornette guy, and I'm a Cornette guy. He gave me my break, and I thought what was said and where it was going, it was, the writing was on the wall, So, and I was just a fly on the wall. I just kind of stayed there, mind my own business, done my own thing, hung with the boys, done my matches, and fit in. That's one thing I told Tim, thanks when he put the U.S. title, the junior title on me, as well as Jimmy and Sandy and Brian and all those people. But I told Tim, and he said, hey, man, you're a good fit here. And I thanked him, and I said, don't worry about me. You don't have to babysit me. I've worked other territories. You ain't got to worry about me being on time. Any other issues that other guys may have or whatever, I'm just thankful to be here. Because at that point, I kind of thought he was part of the office, So there you go. Hey, Trace, welcome back. But, there was some things I saw by Captain,
Yeah, I mean, and Jim's been obviously vocal about it. We were talking about Horner still, Tracy. And the one thing that I'm going to ask Jim the next time I talk to him.
You talking about when they had that big falling out?
Yeah.
When they had him and Jimmy? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what that was over. What was that over, Bobby? I can't remember.
I was telling Mike they're off.
There's just a lot of things.
I saw it about 3 months out. I remember we was at Jellicoe, Tennessee, and I remember, Jimmy it was a weird TV, because I remember him saying something about, can't those idiots get it right, or something like that. And Horner came back in and was like, don't call me an idiot. And he went over, he kind of got us moped and done his little camp thing. But my biggest thing on that one was, that's when Well Done came in, and I had to work with another guy, and they told me, you look good. You look good. So I went out there and I ate both them guys up. They gave me so much that by the time they called the finish, I tagged the other boy in, they pinned him. And I got it back in Cornette. It's probably one of the 2 times that Cornette kind of got on me a little bit, but he said, fuck, you ate them guys up. What the fuck? And I was like, dude, I kept telling them, reverse it, do this, do that. They didn't. I guess they either had too much respect or knew that the other guy was going to take the pin.
That's sad, isn't it? Because Steve Dunn and Rex are both dead. That's terrible, isn't it?
And anyway, I had to go back out after the taping and reshoot the match again. Basically, I went and done a couple moves, tagged, they beat the boy up and pinned him. But I remember that being one of the first nights that I saw some serious heat between Jimmy and Tim there. But yeah, and it is sad.
I think Tim would get frustrated because Jimmy would do a lot of things at the last minute, and maybe he was doing a little too much. Jimmy was. I'm sure that maybe Sandy and Tim helped a little more. I think Tim felt that way, but I mean, you like both of them. You hate to see that, but
sure,
things happen. They were always good, real good. They were real tight, good friends because they started that whole Smoky Mountain together.
Right.
It's Tim and Jimmy, and of course Sandy.
Yeah.
Sandy Scott, God rest his soul, he's gone too.
And Brian's gone, and Brian was a big part of keeping that glue together, But maybe they just thought Jimmy was spreading himself too thin, and maybe Tim was wanting more responsibility.
It's a lot, it's like, this is a long time ago, but I don't know. You know how it is,
Yeah.
But Jimmy and Tim was oil and water anyway, as far as how they live their lives and stuff. You know what I mean. And it just happens. I mean, sometimes guys become friends, but they don't work together good as far as when they're, in business together. Does that make sense? What I'm saying? You see that happen in all types of business and in life. But I love Tim. We had he was when he got that authority, he was a little different. Loved him to death, but he come down on guys, was a little hard ass kind of on guys a little bit. He was wanting to take the gimmicks.
I was going to ask you, do you remember when he come to us about the gimmicks of the baby faces tape?
Yeah.
Yeah, he came up to us at Knoxville, and
that didn't get over with anybody, nobody, because rock and roll, of course,
I was going to say, me, you, and Rick and Robert, we packed our shit, went back to the locker room, if you remember. We didn't sell gimmicks that day.
I remember
they wanted like 27% or something. It was some fucking ridiculous number.
Sure, I thought he wanted to take them. I couldn't remember. I remember getting. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, that's one of the things that I remember was we was out there setting up, and he come to us and said something about, we need, maybe they were going to take them. I don't know, but I was like, fuck that. And everyone else, because I was following yours and Ricky and Robert's lead, and we ended up not selling gimmicks. I think it was like a Sunday afternoon show. We were like, fuck it. And we went back to the locker room and didn't sell gimmicks that day because we said, fuck it, we ain't paying them any money, But it was, I thought it was some ridiculous number.
Wait, so Bobby, Tim Horner came out while all of y'all were out there selling your gimmicks, and he wanted, just for the sake of arguing, because we don't remember the exact percentage, 27% of whatever you all sold.
I thought he wanted to take them and either get half or 80% of it or something. I don't remember what. All I remember is in 92, one of my first loops I did there in Thanksgiving of 92, the Thanksgiving Thunder. I come up on a little deal where I got some flags, the Rebel flags, and with a stick, flags, and selling those and bandanas, Rebel bandanas.
I remember the flags.
And got them in a good quantity, so I got a good deal on them. And I could remember him looking in my gimmick table, looking at me right in front of Jimmy, and he says, "Well, it looks like I'm gonna have to take the gimmicks quicker than I thought, ain't I?" Looked real smart aleck to me right there. And I said, "No, you ain't taking mine. You ain't taking this right here, mine. I just paid for it, Tim. I just bought this yesterday before I started on this loop here, and I had clearance to do this and sell gimmicks." I said, "I don't know where that come from. If I'd known that, I wouldn't have been buying it." You know what I mean?
That's what I was about to say. If you spend your own money on him, how can he take? Yeah,
I love Tim. I'm not, I'm just, I don't want to dog him. I ain't going to do it.
No.
But this did happen, and it built up a little tension, him and I. And then he had been working with White Boy, and was top baby face, and then Jimmy after that, I think. Maybe he worked Candido somewhere in there or somebody. I don't know. He kind of dropped him in the middle of the card, and he didn't really like it. And he was coming down on being a jerk to me some. And it built up the head. Probably my dog was going crazy. Ain't nothing but a nut dog walking down the road with his owner. Stop, Frank. Acts like you're coming to kill us. But anyway, we got in an argument one night somewhere, and I love the guy, but I destroyed the dressing room and just was so mad, because he just, he would hit you, wouldn't he, Bobby? He could hit you sometimes, and he wasn't like that. Everybody used to call him Mother Goose and Frog, and he's such a, hey, hold on. Heck, I don't know who that is. But, and all that. And then we talked afterwards and we were cool, but then it was beginning to the end because it was kind of him and Jimmy had the tension already. And then, that all blew up and I can't remember what exactly happened.
I wanted to bring this up real quickly too. Tracy, you and I met in 93. I think when I started, you actually, I'd done a couple loops and I come in and done a couple of TVs. And then I'm pretty sure you was just getting back from Japan when Jimmy had already asked me if I wanted to come in full time. And me and you, we were over in West Virginia, actually, down around Princeton and that area. And it was you and Ricky and Robert. We used to eat over at, remember Roma 3, Mario's place. And you remember that?
Yeah.
So anyway, I remember doing that loop. And we ended up being down in Tennessee somewhere on the last day or whatever. And long story short, I remember this. I'll never forget it. You came up, we was talking, and you said, come on, man, it's time to sell some gimmicks. We was in Johnson City, Tennessee, and I want to thank you for this. And I think, in fact, I did a few weeks back when I saw you. And it's always a pleasure to see you. But you said, come on, man, let's sell some gimmicks. And I had just some promo pictures. You said, you got any pictures or anything? And I didn't have much at all at the time. I just got them from Australia, actually. But anyway, we went up to the gimmicks table, and, of course, Ricky Roberts over killing it. Like I said, at that point, this would have been 93. You had your flags and your pictures, et cetera. And I remember having some promo pictures that I had taken, and I pulled those out, and you started me at the gimmick table. You said, just stand here by me. And I will say this for anyone listening, man, Tracy Smothers, from the day I met him until I just saw him a couple weeks back and talking to him now, has never changed. He is a straight up good dude, and I'm not saying to stay on his good side. That's just the way he is. But he said, come on, man.
Well,
and
thanks,
and you're welcome, brother. I put you over my book. I told you that. But what happened was, no lie, it's funny how you remember little things, but I stood beside him, and I watched Ricky and Robert selling their gimmicks. I watched Tracy selling his, and I had some pictures that I hadn't got a mass quantity of yet. And I remember selling 7 pictures for $2 each, the little 4x6s, and I made that $14 extra. And I was like, damn, because when I was up in Canada and over in Australia, the office did sell the pictures for you, and they got the money. But I got to keep that. So I got to keep that. And I came home, and I immediately made, I had 3 different sets, and I made 100 of each and came back and I was ready for the gimmick wars, man, but Tracy smarted me up, and then Ricky and Robert smarted me up to the gimmick wars. But that's kind of how that happened for me, getting up there to do gimmicks, because, I was coming in as a baby face, and of course you had Ricky and Robert, Tracy, and Tim kind of, I remember, and again, I'm not trying to bury the guy at all, and at least Tim was always good to me. But it seemed
and Brian
like
Lee, too, before Brian turned heel. He sold a lot of gimmicks, too.
Yeah, he did. You're right.
Sure
I had forgotten about that. But Tim and Brian, that's true. But anyway, then
Tim too, of course.
As some time went on, it seemed like Tim sold more of some T-shirts and hats, and maybe the rain jackets that were.
He had something. He had something kind of like a blow up type balloon or something. I can't remember, like a hammer or something.
He had a lightning bolt. He had a lightning bolt.
Yeah,
lightning bolts. Remember? And
he didn't work. He didn't work after he left Smoky Mountain. He never worked much again, that I can remember. Not very rarely. And I worked with him on a Continental reunion show back 2002 or 3, and he had not worked in a long time then. Yeah. He was I want to say he was a bondsman for a while, and he was security at a mall or something, and he had a shirt business, I believe. But he always did good for himself financially, and saved his money, and had a beautiful home on the lake, and a nice place. Invested his money right and stuff, and was a smart guy. Allie, his wife, loved her to death. Their kids, their girls, and I don't know what he's doing now. I talked to him a couple of years ago, maybe. a year or two ago, and he was getting back working some, he said, and he was asking me advice. He never really read much of the independents and stuff, and didn't really know what he would be fair to ask on money wise and stuff. And, but,
he was always good to me. Like I said, we went over to his house and shot the video on the lake. Me and Candido did, and then after Smoky Mountain even shut down, he had me on he ran a couple of shows, and he had
I did a fair show, a couple of fair shows for him.
Yeah, I did a couple of fair shows for him too. Paid me real good, treated me real good.
Yeah.
The only thing, like I said, the only thing I remember was like as far as from the time you introduced me to the gimmicks to sell them and stuff, was that one time in Knoxville, man. They just came up. They wanted, like you said, it might have been 80%. I really don't know. And we all
I can't remember. He just wanted to take them. I mean, take them.
Wanted to take them or whatever. But asked you.
There was a time in Knoxville, I worked Candido. I guess that was 94, where he tried it again. And maybe it wasn't long before he left. I can't remember how it went. And maybe I don't remember, but the word was they was going to take the gimmicks and like especially the big shows and something about maybe the arena and work out something with each arena.
Yep.
Like the Coliseum was going to get a percentage and Cornette get it, and we wouldn't hardly get nothing in that.
Right.
And I can't remember. And I remember being real upset. And because God rest his soul, Chris Candido, I was working him that day, and Jimmy was getting me to get, and I was going off about that. And Candido thought that I was upset because he thought that I didn't want to put him over. Because I was putting him over that day because Tim had worked with him. It wasn't nothing to do with it. And Tim had worked with him, and Tim, Candido never got a win on him. And Tim had him, whatever was going on, Tim was kind of in charge a little bit of his own angle. And I want to say he did like a baby bottle match, something like that, Bobby. Does that sound right? Then you started working.
Yeah.
You worked with Candido for a while there, right? And for a while, maybe after that, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Or I can't remember how that went, but I was ready to.
And him. Jimmy's such a great
but Tim never put him over. He never put him over at all. The loop, and he worked with him for a long time. I don't remember how that went, and I can't remember exactly when you did, but I remember when I did, and I knew that I knew I had to put him over to get him over.
Oh yeah,
because he killed his heat, and things like that. And I remember that they were trying to take the gimmicks that day, and it was a big show. And I would try to, the guys I worked with, White Boy, I did it with him, I did it with Brian Lee. I'd give them like 10% of what I made on gimmicks because they're out there, they're the ones getting you over. And I bonus them some. You know what I mean? I would
I bonus Dirty White Boy and I bonus Candido both. I sure did. I knew Tony had just gotten a boat. And I remember one day I went to the shower, man. And I was like, "Here you go." And he was, "What?" I gave him like $30, and he was like, "What's that for?" The first time I done it, and I was like, "Dude, that's 10% of what I made out there." I said, "Put some gas in the boat, have a good week or something like that." Yeah. He about died. He just stood there like, "Really?" And I was like, "Damn right, brother."
Yeah.
Who's that? Bobby, who'd you give
Tony Anthony, Dirty White Boy.
Tony Anthony.
Dirty White Boy.
I had to work with him prior to my push with Candido. And the first time I done it, man, I took him like $30. He was getting ready to get in a shower, and I said, "Got a minute?"
That day,
$30,
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, back then, I didn't have a problem if I made, and Tracy, we Ricky and Robert and you, and like Steve and Brian, and we always making good money off those gimmicks, man. That kept us going a lot of times. And I tell you, sometimes those gimmicks, even when Scotty and Steve was there, you're at the gimmick. It's a fucking war, man. You're trying to get everyone's fucking, dirt. You're hoping to buy your gimmicks. It's the gimmick table wars. Yeah. But no, I took Tony the first time I first time I kicked back some. I walked in and Tony was getting ready to go into the shower, and I was like, "Hey, brother, you got a minute?" He goes, "Yeah." I handed him $30, and I said, "I heard you got a boat." He said, "Yeah." I said, "Put some gas in and have a good week." He said, "What's that?" I said, "That's just, that's just for taking care of me out there, man." Cause we worked like a week or, 4-day loop or whatever. And, I had like $300 worth of gimmicks. So I gave the guy $30, and I'm not trying to put myself over. It was just the right thing to do. And I slid Chris some money here and there going, "Man, thank you, brother. Thank you, But it was because of people like Ricky and Robert and because of Tracy that I smartened up to that, because I hadn't worked anywhere other than with territory. like when I was in Canada and Australia, the office took the money from the pictures, you know.
Back then, Hills didn't really sell gimmicks and didn't come out of the gimmick table at all.
Oh, hell no, they never came.
You didn't do it. You didn't do it, you know. And that same day that we was talking about there, I did real good. And I remember, I can't remember how much exactly I did, but it was real good. And I bonused Chris real good. That day, I gave Chris $100.
Yeah.
$100. I didn't do no $1,000, but I did somewhere around 700. So it was a big show, and I did a ton of them flags and flags and the bandanas that day, and I'd get them for $1 and sell them for $5. And I think I did a lot of shirts maybe that day. You know what I mean? I did a lot. I think people were just buying like crazy. And I can't remember what it was, around $700. So I gave him $100. And he was just so happy for that. And I just told him, I said, see, I said, if they'd have took the gimmicks today, Chris, I said, I wouldn't have been giving you nothing.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know, and things like that. And that's what I was into it about, was trying to keep that from happening.
And again, I have to tell, I'm going to tell on Tracy Smothers. I'm going to tell on you, Tracy. I'm going to stooge you out. You know, in addition to helping me learn to do the gimmick deal, you know, up there, at one point, you know, you never know who to trust and who not to. Once you leave your table to sell gimmicks and stuff, and at the time, I married a real nice young girl, and she ended up selling some gimmicks, and she'd watch, you know, Ricky and Robert's table some, she'd watch Tracy some, and there was plenty of nights that between those three, they would tip her because she was at least honest. And
she would hustle
they
it.
gave my ex-wife,
Yeah.
I would get, just no lie, Tracy or Ricky or Robert, whoever's table she watched, because she was an honest girl, and I made her an honest girl. That's straight shoot. But and anyway, where I'm going with that is, if she sold gimmicks and hustled those gimmicks, they would bonus her or kick her back, you know, 10% or something like that. Or even if it was $30 or $40 or something, $20 or whatever, that went towards my trans or my hotel.
All expenses and food.
I would have to cut into my gimmicks as much. And then I never cut into my check with Smoky Mountain. That's one thing about gimmicks. I never, ever cut into my own check in Smoky Mountain.
Put it in the bank. Put it all in the bank.
Check came and I could put it in the bank.
Well, I did it with White Boy. I did it with White Boy when I was working for him. I did it with Brown Lee, and I did it with Candido. I didn't do it any more after that.
Yeah.
I didn't do it with anybody else.
I did a White Boy and Candido.
It kind of faded out there. You know, it kind of faded out, you know.
Yeah. But I do remember you taking care of my ex-wife at the time, who was my girl, you know. You always gave her a little bonus if she took care of you and hustled, you know, done her deal. And that's pretty cool, man, you know. And Ricky Robert done the same thing, but she thought a lot of you guys, you know. And it's one of those things, man. That's just the kind of guy you are.
Hey, Tracy, I'm gonna ask you a question. You talking about selling those gimmicks, the Confederate flag gimmicks? I remember the angle with you and Tony Anthony, Dirty White Boy, where they torched the rebel flag, Confederate flag, in the garbage can. Can you talk about like the program that y'all worked and I mean, was that idea Jimmy's idea, Dirty White Boy's idea as far as the whole program, and then burning the flag, and how many gimmicks did you sell, flags did you sell with the flag? Oh man,
that's when well, it was, I guess, Jimmy's idea, and Tony had a lot of input on it too, and Ron Wright, and I just followed whatever they, told me to do, you know what I mean? But we did it in Jellicoe, Tennessee, where started the angle where he handcuffed me to the ropes and burnt the flag in the ring in a garbage can. And the rock and roll had the program going with the bodies, heavyweight bodies. And then it was, I believe it was still Stan Lane and Tom before Jimmy Del Rey come in, something like that.
Yeah,
then they did it again.
Jimmy hadn't come in yet.
They did another run when Jimmy Del Rey come in, and I believe under that was Brian Lee and Kevin Sullivan. Bobby, were you there yet? Were you working with Candido maybe then?
With Candido then, yes, you're correct.
And Tim was working with different guys, and I think something like that. But we had 4 or 5 angles going there. That was, and it got good, and so it was drawn. We were drawn pretty good with all of that, everywhere. And I did real good on gimmicks during that time. And White Boy had a lot of heat because they knew he was a country boy redneck and burning the rebel flag, and they really bought it. And listen, I had Ku Klux Klan come to a few shows, come up on me, and they weren't happy at all. The 93 Bluegrass Brawl. I can remember
Pikeville, Kentucky. Pikeville, Kentucky. Tell them,
being at the gimmick table, and I look up, and a guy standing there with straight up Confederate stuff on, his kid too. And Webb Newsom was his name. He had a piece of paper, and he opens it up, and he goes, recognize this town right here? And it's Pulaski, Tennessee. And I said, yeah. I said, I sure do. I said, I'm from Tennessee. I said, I'm from North Tennessee, Springfield, outside of Nashville, up toward Kentucky. I said, yeah. I wasn't thinking what he had. I didn't even look. I was at the table, and I didn't really look. And I looked up, and he's standing there, and they had all the boys behind him, or they were all Rex or by ringside, about 30 of them. And he goes, yep. He opens it, and it was a big Klan rally in Pulaski. He goes, that's where it started right there. And it was May 26th, 1993. I remember that. And he was wanting me to come, and I mean, that's a gimmick with me. And I've done other gimmicks and that one for a while and all. And I don't think like that. I just, there's Southern heritage, and it's just something that Kevin Sullivan in '87 put on Steve and I, the Wild Eyed Southern Boys. That was Kevin Sullivan's gimmick. He's the one who did it. But, things like that. But they, were real deal, and they weren't happy at all. And they come to see White Boy, and they said, you better whoop his ass. He said, we're going to kill the son of a bitch. They were mad because he told me, because we know this is all set up and everything. He said, but that's bad. That's a bad deal to burn the flag there. And he said, you won't pay for that shit tonight like that. And I told him, I said, guys, I was worried about White Boy. And I said, don't worry about that. I said, I'll take care of that. That's just kind of, this is my night to try to get him back here. I said, so, please. But I had the state troopers, Kentucky State Police, watch that section the whole night. They didn't kick him out or nothing. But, I told them what's going on, and I was worried, but I was actually, I used to, when I played football, I would get so hyped up, I'd throw up sometimes for a game, and I was kind of that way that night. I was worried about Tony. Tony carried his pistol on him in places, and didn't go out at bars or nothing during when we were doing that. He legit had a gun on him at all times.
Tracy, I don't know if how well you remember it, but I mean, Ron and Tony, and today's environment, people would laugh, but Ron and Tony literally denounced their Southern heritage on TV and really talked terrible about Tennessee,
New York
Tennessee
Yankees, New York Yankees jersey on and stuff like that. Yeah,
right, but so like
back in, this is 1993. People, oh boy,
right, that was crazy. And then he burns, and then he torches the flag, which so I can see how the locals weren't too satisfied, Bobby and Tracy.
I had a couple people that back then that were like sheet readers, I guess. So, but I had them come up to me, and it's kind of a little bit different. But White Boy had that New York Yankee jersey on and stuff, and they was convinced he was going to go to New York, WWF at the time or whatever. And they would say to me, because they'd read them sheets, and they'd come up to me with gimmicks, they would say, you know what that means, don't you? You're going to be moving up the card. You're moving up the card. And I'm like thinking, are you fucking for real? He's not leaving Tennessee, to myself, but I couldn't say anything. And these were supposedly your smart marks or your whatever, your sheet readers. But they would be like, as soon as Tracy beats them and this runs over, because they was talking like, like they knew what the fuck was going on to me. And it was just fans, but, God bless them. We know we need the fans, but they was being straight serious telling to me that when White Boys runs over, he's going to New York, and that's going to move you up the card, man. You're going to move up the card. And it was just like, they was straight shooting with me because they really thought they had that inside information. Of course, they didn't because Tracy's telling you different, and I know different. We all do now, but I was like, man, of course, I never exposed anything. I was a big believer in kayfabe, and I kept my mouth shut, and I listened. But when they was giving me these ridiculous ideas of, when Tracy wins and White Boy goes to WWF, and moves to New York because he denounced his Southern heritage. You're moving up the card. And I'm like, oh, well, I'll be looking forward to that. And I just like more gimmicks, to myself, but I wouldn't say anything,
Well, there used to be a guy, we would see him whenever we worked out of Johnson City area, which was a lot. We'd stay at that hotel there. They give us a real good rate and everything. And heck, we'd get 5-6 to a room or something all the time. Just have a good time. It was a good time.
Let me say this.
But
I won't mention the West Town Inn over in Knoxville. I don't know if you ever want to go there. That was over in Knoxville. Well, we had some good nights there, but go ahead. Back to your Johnson City story. Go ahead. Back to Johnson City.
Well, we would eat in the Waffle House a lot there. Yep. And it's Robert Gibson this time, and we'd see this one fella in there all the time. And he'd come to matches some when he could. And I want to say he's a truck driver. But we'd always see him in there, and he was a nice guy. And you never know this with this guy. Well, he, we were about to leave, or we were sitting there eating, or he was about to leave, and he just talked to us like he always did, real cool guy. And then he walks over to me, and his whole attitude, his demeanor, his voice, everything changed. And he looks and he goes, hey, hey, bud. He taps me on the shoulder there and shook my hand in a different kind of handshake like they do. And he says, he goes, I know you're a real deal, redneck, Southern boy, and everything. He said, there's a lot of boys in the valley that sure appreciate you waving that rebel flag. And the valley he was talking about was between Johnson City and Asheville there. It's nothing but mountains. Bobby knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And it ain't nothing but mountains. And he said, and when he said that, and I just like looked up at him, and I says, yeah, I says, I have some of you guys come up on me. Y'all scare the shit out of me. Because it catch you unexpected. And I can remember one night at Johnson City, a bunch of them come, and at the Freedom Hall, and was this line, just across. They just come up. I just looked up, and there was about 10 of them, and they was real subtle about it, and just said, we're here to fuck him up, and they were going to get him afterwards. And I said, look, I'm just telling you, he got a gun on him. He goes, well, that's all right. And I said, guys, I'll get him. I said, don't go that far. I said, it's my job. That's what I'm here for to do. And they said, well, we know this plan to set up dudes, but you better get him, or we will. He said, we'll give him a pass because he's and that, but they were serious, man. I'm not kidding you either. I'm not joking. They pulled me aside, and it wasn't no big scene or nothing. They don't work like that.
No.
So
Tracy,
they were serious.
Let me ask this. Because man, we are enamored with Ron Wright on our show, man. We talk a lot about Ron Wright and really appreciate him.
Right.
During all this time when, basically the Klan is making death threats at these various events and whatnot. Are you going back to Ron? I mean, obviously you're telling Dirty White Boy, obviously you're telling Tony, but are you going back to Ron Wright too and saying, hey man, look, this is what they're saying. And if you are telling Ron that, what was Ron saying? I know, what was Ron saying in response to all this stuff?
Ron carried a gun and a knife on him at all times anyway. He did anyway. He didn't let nobody know. He just made the monthly towns. He didn't do a lot of the spot shows. He'd do some of them.
Yeah,
Ron would, but he used to
Knoxville, Johnson City,
Barberville,
and Morristown. Sometimes Morristown.
Yeah.
He done like 4 or 5
some
towns.
Some spot shows if they were close to Knoxville, if they were close to Knoxville,
or something like that. If we done something.
Yeah,
but yeah. Mostly, yeah.
You can tell he only did the local shows because on the promos, all of the local promos, for the most part, as much as I can remember, Ron is never on.
They weren't really mad they were mad at him, but they just knew Ron was an ornery son of a bitch anyway, and he was. He was real deal. They bought him. I mean, they more White Boy's the one that actually burned it. That's what the problem was. He's the one. Ron didn't burn it. Ron was, of course, there with him. But they weren't as mad. They were, Ron had heat anyway. Yeah. But Ron would have lawsuits, several. He told me, he said, I'd have 2-3 lawsuits a year. He said, guys try to stab me. He told me stories about it. Full guns on him, everything. It wasn't a big deal, Ron.
Hey, so
It wasn't me,
Tracy,
but it wasn't no big deal with Ron. He wasn't worried about it. Tony was
every
serious
time
about it too. He carried a gun on him, at all times. That ain't a lie either. He did.
So when Ron is at ringside in his wheelchair, I've heard stories that sometimes, like I've heard one time in particular, he had his gun on him. But are you telling me more often times than not, Ron had a knife and gun on him at ringside, or no?
Yeah,
just
yeah. Everywhere he went, not just wrestling. Everywhere he went,
he was always carrying.
Oh, yes, yes. To the day he died. Oh yeah, he'd shoot you, cut you in a minute. He gonna fight you.
Bobby,
he could, but I mean, he ain't gonna fight. He just shoot you. He didn't care, man. He wasn't scared of nothing. His brother Don Wright was a hell of a worker. Ron was more the brawler, and they drew a lot of money as heels. And he was great too. Don Wright, boy, oh yeah. He didn't mess around.
I'd heard the stories that he carried it sometimes or once or twice at ringside. I didn't realize that he more times than not only had his knife but had his gun on him in the wheelchair at ringside.
Yeah, he had a 38, but he had a little 22 pistol. That's what he usually, he didn't want to be noticeable, but he had a gun and knife, and he had he had switchblade. He was good with it. You didn't ever see it. I mean, nobody messed with him. I'll tell you that. They didn't come after him. I didn't see none of them clan boys messing with him. I'm telling you, I ain't a lie either. They knew not to fuck with him because they're going to kill him. That's just the way it is. It's the way he is. I mean, that's no lie. It was no gimmick. Ron Wright was no gimmick. That was Ron Wright all the time.
Oh yeah. Ron is one of the, to me, besides Tony Anthony, Bobby. We haven't gotten to your stuff yet as we review it, but Ron is like the MVP to me or one of the MVPs to me of Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Bob Armstrong.
Bob Armstrong too. Yeah. Yep.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Of course, Rock and Roll Express.
Oh yeah.
And Bobby and Brian Lee. A lot of guys. Did a lot there. Guys that come in and out too. Some he brought in Terry Funk a lot, Dory Funk. Brought in Bob Orton Jr. a lot.
Dick Murdoch.
Dick Murdoch. Sure did, boy. And drew money with
Buddy
him.
Landau.
Bob used to have classic matches with Bob Orton Jr. and Dick Murdoch. Oh my gosh. And Terry Funk, of course, matter of fact, one of the shows, they brought in Road Warrior Hawk, and it was Bob, Hawk, myself, 6-man against Dory, Terry Funk, and Bruiser Bedlam. Remember him, Bobby?
Yes, sure.
Bruiser Bedlam. He's dead now,
Yeah.
A lot of guys. It's sad too. But he brought them big show, 6-man tag as Coliseum, and I believe somewhere in there too, Bob Orton Jr. and Dick Slater worked Ronnie Garvin and Mongolian Stomper. Mongolian Stomper was another one. He'd bring in Mongolian Stomper and Ronnie Garvin. Ronnie Garvin was another guy that come in and out some. Sure did. What a tag match they had that night. And Stomper and Ronnie had been, always wrestled each other and did big business there in the old Knoxville territory. So then to tag up and against Bob Orton and and Dick Slater. It's classic stuff. Yeah.
A lot of good stuff. Hey, Bobby, you said you had a story you wanted to tell between that something that happened with you and Tracy on the road or something. I don't remember this.
Well, I just mentioned the West Town Inn. I said there's probably a lot of stuff that we don't want to talk about that happened at the West Town Inn after the matches. But no, I want to ask Tracy one thing if he remembered this, and I'm sure he does. The couple weeks, I guess, when they brought Sherry Martel in, Trace. And I got I came in town. Something happened to my car or something. I can't remember. But anyway, I got a really sweet deal on a rent-a-car, and I drove down to Knoxville. And so it's me and Tracy and Sherry Martel and her friend Kathy. And so do you remember that weekend by chance? We did like 3 or 4 days together. And when they brought Sherry in. Anyway,
Yeah, I can
we're
remember
riding
us all
around, we
traveling
went to
together.
Waffle
Yeah.
House to eat and stuff. Anyway, we was traveling together, and we was heading from like Knoxville over to Johnson City for the afternoon show or whatever it was. But anyway, long story short, it was just funny because I was doing 75 on 75, you know, like zooming down the highway. And you was like, Bobby, you're like the worst fucking driver in the territory. Speed up, speed up. And Sherry was behind me, and you two just started giving me shit about my terrible driving. I remember I had this really nice rent-a-car, enough, you know, nice little power and this and that. And we was just traveling together, you know, just trying to get from one town to the next. But you all just kept giving me shit in a good way. I'm like, you're the worst driver. You're the worst driver, you know. And I'm like looking up, and I look down at the speedometer, and literally I'm being passed by another car. I'm doing 75. And Sherry Martell looks over and goes, "You're fucking being passed by little blue-haired ladies. Speed up."
I do remember that. I remember that.
Yeah,
when she
it
said
was all
that.
like Jellicoe
I remember that.
Mountain
It
or
rings a
something.
bell.
I don't know. It was just
But you know what,
those things.
Bobby? During that time there, when Sherry was there, and before that, I for 2 months, I had worked with Brian for a while there, but it was in Welch, West Virginia, and doing the old 10 punch, climbing the ropes, and I come off of, climbing the ropes and did that, and I went down on his ankle, rolled my ankle, I broke my ankle, and I told everybody it's strained, it's broke, it cracked, it snapped, and it was coming through swelling, and I had 2 braces on it, and I was rehabbing it on my own, doing isometrics with everything, and my old trainer in football, Mr. G, Carson Newman, taught me how to rehab injuries. And because I knew I had a run there with Brian, and Sherry was in like 2 weeks, something like that.
2 weeks.
And then I had a Japan tour for Baba, and it was good money for me, the gimmicks and everything for Jimmy there. And then I had the 3-week tour for Baba. It was that, and Inoki was the biggest, New Japan, All Japan, the biggest offices in Japan. And I didn't want to miss it. I didn't tell nobody my ankle was broke. I just told them it was sprained, but it was. I wore 2 braces. I looked like I had elephantitis. But Sherry Martell was such a great valet and got me through it. She was just so good at getting the people and everything. Focus on what you're doing, and she wore the red dress and everything. Did the rebel, and all that. And the greatest valet. The greatest valet. Ricky Morton traveled with us too. I believe, but on a couple of them. But the greatest valet ever, heel or babyface, whatever you wanted, was Sherry Martell. I always tell girls that are valets or girl wrestlers to watch her. Watch her. She was out of this world, boy. I'll never forget that. She got me through it, and because I mean it was, and my adrenaline but a sprain is really actually is more painful than a break.
Yes.
And done both, but that's what people don't realize about our business. We'll work hurt with injuries that football players are out a whole season or don't play another play or in the game at least, and maybe out half a year or 6 weeks, whatever. But
very few days off in our business when you're out there.
Back then you didn't work, you didn't get paid. It wasn't on a weekly guarantee. It was on a nightly guarantee. But
remember or not? I remember one of your other injuries. I know for sure you had a concussion. Is you and Candido were in back in West Virginia.
I had 7 concussions. I had 7 full-blown concussions in 3 years.
Well, I remember
3.5 years there. I had 7 full-blown concussions.
But I don't know if you remember this one in particular. I know Robert Gibbs and I were standing there watching your match with Candido, and it was a ladder match in Beckley, West Virginia. And you went to jump on him in a corner, and he moved, and you hit the ladder.
Yeah.
And the ladder flipped completely over, and you went from about 15 feet up straight down onto your head. And Chris, I think, was planning maybe to do a dive or something, so he hit the ropes, and he stops. And me and Robert looked at each other like, hey, he's fucked up. And you was like, you stood up, but you did not have a fucking clue where you were at. The ladder was still teetering. You had hit the top of it and went over, and basically swan dived out into the ring, onto the concrete floor.
It was in the corner.
Yes.
The ladder was in the corner, and I'm doing the spot where I go to shoot Chris into the ladder. He reverses it, and I take the ladder in the corner. Well, I kind of like, when I did it, I went up almost like a sting splash, and I went too high, and the ladder catapulted me out of the ring, and I just bam, and I'm gonna tell you something. I think I died right there for a little bit because this isn't allowed on my kids, on my boys. all my kids. I was knocked out, but Gerbil, Brian Hildebrand, God rest his soul, Mark Curtis, it was his referee name, and Candido, who both are passed away now. Brian in 99, Candido 05, right? Well, I can remember them going, "Hey, Trace, you all right? You all right?" And I'm like, I could hear them, but I couldn't say nothing, and I just thought, well, yeah, I'm okay. I didn't feel nothing. I was numb, and I was knocked out, but I could hear them. And then, I couldn't see them. It was real dark. And I sit there and I thought, well, heck, I can't, why can't I can't talk to them. They don't know I'm there. And I just remember thinking, like, I thought my son Kyle,
Yeah, I remember
it was in 94. So he was 4 years old. Yeah. And I just thought, and I just had a voice come to me, like, live or die. More or less, I said, I want to live, my son, and I'm thinking to myself, and then I came to, but I didn't remember nothing after that till about 3 hours later. We were eating at Claudio's restaurant.
Yeah, Claudio.
I
said Mario. I said Claudio.
Yeah. Claudio. Yeah.
When Robert and I was standing at the table watching the match, or kind of behind the curtain there,
knocked me out.
When you went down, we both knew you was hurt, and we started sliding down the curtain down around that way. By the time they got
my lower back. My lower back on my right side, it goes out from time to time. It gets crooked on me here and there some, or I just have problems with it. And it's from that. I hit back of my head, and I hit on my lower back.
We thought you were dead.
It hadn't been all. I did too. I think I was for a little bit. But anyway, I just sat there and thought, well, this is it. I'm dead. This is what it's like. I can hear them, but they can't. I can't respond.
And people that's listening.
And yeah, I finished the match. I don't remember none of it. And I didn't remember nothing until hours later. We were eating at Claudio's, and there's 3 stages to a concussion. There's, your bell rung, which isn't good, a mild concussion, and a full-blown concussion when you're throwing up and stuff. And I had 7 full-blown in 3.5 years for Jimmy. The next day, we had TV, Bobby. We would always do, remember the 3 takes, right?
Yes.
Well, he had me working 4 times in another ladder match. And, he already had his TV, out. And I worked a dark match with a 16-year-old kid, and his brother was about 19 then, with Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
Remember Jeff Hardy?
Yeah.
The Hardys used to come to TV. And I remember, yes. I said, Jimmy, you heard what happened to me last night, right? He wasn't at the show. He goes, yeah. And I said, look, I'll do whatever you want. I said, but I don't know my name hardly here. I said, why have I got to do a dark match? And he goes, oh my God. He goes, you've got to work with this kid. He's fucking great. And he said he trained himself in his backyard, him and his brother, Matt. And I knew I'd not seen him work, but I'd seen Matt,
Mm-hmm.
and, in that. And I said, are you serious? He said, yeah. And I remember getting out there with him. He said, and I went over to him, and that little green, and Jeff looked up in there, and I says, Jeff, I introduced myself, and I says, what can you do in the ring? He goes, whatever you want me to do, sir. And I looked, and I said, okay. I said, I'm a little rock, but I'll just call it out there, okay? And he was, God, a natural. And then I worked 3 other times and did another ladder match. It was a debut, I want to say, remember when Chris Jericho and Lance Storm come in?
Yeah.
The Thrill Seekers. Yeah. They were on that show. And we had to follow them. I remember that, me and Candido. And I just thought, I was sitting there praying. I thought, how in God's name am I going to get through this? I'd worked Jimmy Del Rey, one of the tapings, worked Candido, one of the tapings. I can't remember who I worked on the other one. And, of course, worked Jeff Hardy. I worked 4 times.
Yeah.
And, oh, God, yeah. It was insane.
But, yeah, that was a nasty bump. And
I was going to Japan 4 or 5.
Yeah,
I was going to Japan 4 or 5 times a year during that time, too. And just wore out. And working a lot of independents, just banged up, just beat to death.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand, too, with Smoky Mountain, was Jimmy, and I wrote this in my first book, but as long as you cleared your schedule, Jimmy, you could still work independents.
Around what he had, what Jimmy had, right. But he was running. Jimmy was running 12, 15 times a month.
Yes. So you might get 12 to 15 with Jimmy, but we might be doing another 5 or 6 shows.
You get independence off of that.
Yes, would. We was on that TV so strong. So we would
get the only one he wouldn't let you
22 days a month, and making money off our gimmicks. And as long as it didn't conflict with your Smoky Mountain schedule, we were doing independence like crazy off that TV, man.
Yeah, everybody was. But the only one we couldn't work for was Terry Landale.
Yeah, exactly. I never have to this day. No, never
Hey,
worked for
I
Dave.
have. I've worked for him after that. After Smoky Mountain was done, I have, but not anymore. Fuck him.
Yeah.
You know, but
hey, let me. I
he's
got.
a prick, man. He's no good
I got a
guy.
question. I got a question for both of y'all about a group that was in Smoky Mountain. Tracy, you talked about the feud with Ron Wright and Dirty White Boy with the Rebel flag, but I want to know what it was like when New Jack came in
I knew
and
you was going to ask.
because
Yeah.
I have been going back watching New Jack's promos, and
Oh
I
my
can
God,
only imagine that environment. Now, Bobby, you know where I grew up in New Orleans. I can only imagine that Smoky Mountain environment and how they took to New Jack.
Yeah. All right. The first day New Jack was, the gangsters, Mustafa and New Jack was there. I'll never forget it. We were somewhere in North Carolina, and it was right on the border of like Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia. It's some town. As I had a map, I could tell you, Bobby, and I'll never forget this. Well, Jimmy put the gimmick on them, and everything, and brought them in, and it's when OJ. Remember when OJ, with his wife and everything, and the whole deal, and the Bronco and all that.
Yes.
And, all that had just happened, and things like that. Well, we get there. We got 3 TV tapings, and the cop there was Klan. Okay, all the cops. There was 3 cops there, and they were all Klan. And they heard that, we had Killer Kyle. Remember Killer Kyle, Bobby?
Great guy, yeah.
Killer Kyle.
Great guy.
Yeah, hell of a guy, hell of a worker. Hell of a worker, too, he was.
Yes, he
Big
was.
man, could move, he had it all. And he eventually put Kyle in there with him with the gangster thing. Well, anyway, Jack and Mustafa had a match, and a squash match or something, I can't remember. And all them boys, their buddies that were legit gangsters from Atlanta, all came in the building. We didn't know they were all going to be there, and it circled the ring and did that, and then went over and did the interview, and they were working a big deal, coming right in, working with rock and roll. You know what I mean? And I can remember them doing that interview, and New Jack was doing his, the racial interview and everything. And New Jack was real smart. That's what people don't know about him. He was a college graduate, and Mustafa was a big bad good guy, country boy, but he was a tough dude, man. Good guy. Yeah, he just messaged me, and I got to message him back on Facebook, Bobby. I'll give him your info, too. He lives in California now. He was out in Vegas. But anyway, Jack did his promo and says, y'all got to deal with me, this Southern dude. Y'all ain't seen nothing. Nobody was doing nothing like that back in the business. And he says, y'all got to deal with me. Y'all got to deal with us. Y'all got to deal with the gangsters. We're legit. They were this. He bounty hunted and killed a few guys and things like that. And Jack, and he did what an interview. And Ricky, while he was doing it, Ricky, was going crazy. Ricky was going, Jimmy, we can draw money with him. This is fucking, Jimmy was loving it. And New Jack finished it, and Ricky and them were loving it. I said, guys, you understand where we're at here? Because they come up on me and they go, well, we're trying to draw money. I said, I get that. I said, but these guys, this is I don't know. This is crazy, man. Because that cop kept calling me over, and he was furious. He wanted to shoot him. I swear to God he did. He wanted to, New Jack finished it off, and he goes, oh, no, Jay. He said, keep up the good work. He said, we got 2 of them down. We got a lot more to go. Right there. And that cop called me up there at the stairs right there, and I went down and told him what they said and everything, and told Jimmy and them. And Jimmy, everything's angled. You know what I mean? He's wrestling, and this Jimmy, this real deal. These guys ain't playing. And that cop told me, he said, you need to get them out of here. You need to get them out of here right away. They need to go right away. Well, yeah, he was pissed. All 3 of them were pissed off. And I never even told Jack and them because I thought they'd confront them. And you know how it is. I mean, New Jack really was careful. The first week around the loop, he came to all the shows, and I can't remember what color it was, but in a Corvette. They had security watching his. Green. Yeah, it was green. Yeah. And they worked a long time with White Boy or with Rock and Roll, and then they worked with White Boy and I when they put White Boy and I together. And that's when I'd come back from Japan, and we was in Paintsville, Kentucky, and his first night in, we worked with a young black kid named A.C. Connors, what he was called then.
You know where that was?
And it was D-Lo Brown.
It was D-Lo Brown. That was at the Apple Fest, West an hour from my house. They brought in AC.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was D'Lo Brown. That's his first night in up there.
His first night in, he worked with me. Yeah, I had come just into Japan, had come in the night before, and to Nashville. And if I'm right, I believe I got in that day, and I got off the plane and went and got to my car and went straight to Paintsville, drove like 300 miles, and I worked him. And Jimmy told me then, he said, he trained himself in the backyard. No, Gerbil, Mark Curtis, the ref, told me in the ring that, was working. He was just a natural, and he was great. And Jimmy loved the matches, his tryout match working with me. And we went on first. I remember that. And
that was at the Apple
because
Fest,
and Gerbil told me he trained himself in the ring. So he was the second guy that ever trained in the backyard besides the Hardys, that made it, and of course the rest was, and Jimmy put him with him after that. D'Lo made him D'Lo Brown.
Black pants and black,
boots
or whatever. But he came in I remember the reason I was there. I don't know if I was off at that time or not, but where that's just an hour from my house. I remember I went up and worked Tony, and I just because it was local, and I think I was off TV, but Jimmy booked me up there, just because he knew it so close to me, and I was over in that town. But I remember that's right. That's the first time I met D'Lo was at Paintsville, Kentucky, and that night you're talking about.
Yeah,
Bobby,
yeah.
Of course
they were there about a year, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's funny you point that promo out, Tracy, because we just played that promo on the show a couple of weeks ago where New Jack said that, where he said, OJ, good job. That's two down, many more to go.
Work. And you didn't go there with those kind of things back then. You didn't go there with them kind of things. It was cutting edge, and that was Attitude Era way before there was an Attitude Era,
Yeah.
It was, boy. Their whole deal was, man. Hey, one night, this ain't a lie. One time, you remember Ron and Don Harris, right?
Yeah.
Bobby,
I know
remember
where you're
them?
gonna go with this,
they were two big old rough boys, and they were doing a deal with the gangsters, and somewhere in there, I can't remember how it went. And did something, a smoz or a pull apart or something crazy in one of them towns, and all that, and I can remember the cops, didn't like Ron and Don, and their deal was like hillbilly type thing, you know what I mean, kind of something like that. I don't know what they were. They looked like two Bruiser Brodies is what they looked like, and were romping, stomping bad boys were Ron and Don, and the gangsters. And they didn't like the gangsters at all, because they were Klan. This was in Virginia somewhere. I don't remember where it was.
Wise, Virginia, or Council, Virginia?
Somewhere like that. Yeah, I think it was Council. Wise was another situation.
Council was Wise was the whole other situation with Jimmy and the heavily body bracket.
And Ron and Don beat up the whole crowd.
Yeah, they beat up the whole
crowd. They beat up about 20 people. That was the damnest thing you ever seen.
Chairs sideways. Chairs was slinging fucking frisbees, taking their legs out, knocking people down.
Another time, there was something they did that. Another one, Wise. Yeah. Another one that we did was when we were getting ready to do and bring Undertaker in, when it was Bob, myself, and Undertaker against the gangsters. And one of the last Bluegrass Brawl, I believe, in '95 we did.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Well, then, I remember the one Ron and Don told me, he said, Ron used to be a cop. He said, you need to call backup then. He said, fuck y'all. He said, I'm not putting you can go to hell. He told them that. He's ready to fight them cops. Ron and Don were. And New Jack and them were ready. Well, anyway, Jimmy, myself, they did a thing with Balls Mahoney. He was Boo Bradley then, and they left Boo lay in and beat Boo up, and everything left and laying. Every tape they were, getting heat on their baby faces. And then the second one, I can't remember who he did something with. And then the third one was going to be myself in a single match with New Jack, with Mustafa out and D'Lo out by ringside, and then them screw me, get a win on me, and then get heat on me, and then beat Jimmy down and cover Jimmy with the Malcolm X flag. And that was we were getting ready to do that segment there, the last segment, and that was the lead in to bring Undertaker in. You know what I mean? Because Undertaker come in for Pikeville, and he came in for Johnson City and Knoxville, maybe.
Yep,
or maybe it was just those three. And
No, it might have been those two. But anyway, we had a huge weekend.
You're right. It was those two. It was Pikeville and John City. Well, anyway, he came in another time and worked.
Weekend.
He did another one where he came in and worked Unabomber, which was Kane.
Yeah, that was a Super Bowl going on.
That's when they put him on developmental. And had him still working Smoky Mountain. He was working USWA too, plus on developmental. And anyway, we're getting ready to do that segment. And I think it was Balls. Maybe they left Balls. He wasn't Balls then. He was something else. And I can't remember who the second one they did. Maybe Balls was first. I don't remember how it went. But all I remember is a cop come back there, three of them, and they come back to me. It was always three of them guys. When it was Klan guys, usually at least three. Well, they come back to me and goes, "Hey, we don't have that type around here. We don't have them around here. They need to get the hell out of here now." He come back and told us and everything, and Jimmy went off and everything. I said, "Jimmy, these guys ain't playing." I said, "They're cops and they're real deal." I buzzed him. He goes, "Huh?" I said, "They're the real deal. They're playing. They are furious." I said, "It's going to draw." I said, "But we got to talk these guys out of this some way. They want New Jack and Mustafa. They wanted to take them in. They wanted to take them down. Whatever they needed to do." And New Jack and Mustafa and D'Lo were back in the back, and they were ready to fight. They were ready to do because they knew if they went to jail, they wasn't going to never be seen again. They knew it, and I knew it. And I don't think Jimmy really got it, but he did when I told him, "I'm serious." And I pulled the cops. I said, "Jimmy," I said, "let me smarten them up to what we're doing here. Back then you didn't smarten nobody up." And you kayfabe. And I took them in a room right there. And I said, "Look, guys," I said, "this is a storyline. This is an angle." I said, "Yes, they are legitimate gangsters. They are the real deal." I said, "But we are leading in to our big shows coming up in Pikeville, Kentucky mainly, and in Johnson City, Tennessee." I said, "They are going to beat me up. Then the next show, beat me up. And they're going to cover Jimmy with I had to tell them what we were doing. And I said, they're going to cover him with the Malcolm X file. I'm not kidding. I was like nervous, and I was there, and I said, "This is our business. This is what we do. This is a storyline. This is soap opera. We're leading every week. We're doing 3 weeks of TV here. We do it every 3 weeks. This is leading into to big shows." I said, "Everything he's rolled the dice, and everything is hinging on these two shows." I said, "This is going to kill our business if you arrest these guys right now." Right. I said, "We'll get they looked at me and they said, "Okay." They said, "Well, we understand that and do." He said, "But we don't have that bullshit around here, and we don't have them we don't have them. Ain't no black people in this county. There ain't no black people in the surrounding counties." He was telling me all of it, and I just sit there and do it. I said, "I got you." I said, "I understand." He goes, "Well, I'll tell you what." He goes, "They don't need to shower. They need to get the fuck out of here as soon as they're done." Okay. So that's what he told me. And he said, "Y'all go and y'all do it and do." He said, "We're not going to watch it. We're going to be where and that and do." He said, "We're going to be right over here." And he said, "You have one of your guys. If you need help or something, need anything we do our job to come get us, but we're not going to watch it." That's what they told me. And I went and told New Jack and them, said, "Guys, don't do whatever you do. Just please, let's get through this and do." I said, "I just talked to them and all that and did." And I mean, New Jack had a gun on him all the time too. Yeah. Told him Mustafa and I, they had to. But and D'Lo wasn't a hardcore real gangster like they were. You know what I mean? D'Lo was from the Northeast, came from a good family. Yeah. He was you know what I mean? He wasn't a hardcore brother like they were. He was an educated guy, played college football and stuff. You know what I mean? Well, New Jack was too, but I mean, he was real deal. And so we got through it, and that's I'm not exaggerating. That happened.
Tracy, let me ask a question about the whole thing, because I 100% believe you, because, I mean, I watch it back now, all the episodes that I have, and I see some of the stuff that New Jack said, and I was telling my co-host, Doc, who's a big fan of yours, by the way, Doc said to me offline last weekend, I told him offline last weekend, I said, "I'm actually shocked that nothing happened to New Jack in the Smoky Mountains during that time, because of the
hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second.
Are you shocked, Bobby, that nothing bad ever happened to him?
I am, actually. I mean,
cause you listen to some of the stuff that he said in them promos.
Okay.
It's crazy.
Go ahead. Let's say what now?
I was saying, I was saying, Bobby, I'm going to get your take after I get Tracy's. But what I told Doc and I were talking about this offline. We said we could not believe that New Jack did not get hurt by a fan or wasn't seriously harmed because of the promos he was cutting. Because, I mean, they were vicious, man. They were real.
Oh, yes. And he came from the heart, and it drew money because they bought it. But it got to where I remember, I can't remember what the deal was and what exactly happened. And, but they're supposed to have got a big deal like with Coca-Cola or somebody. Is that right, Bobby? Do you remember this? And they, was going to get a big sponsorship with them. And,
actually, yeah, you're right on it. It was actually Pepsi. Pepsi, I think, is who it was.
Yeah.
And they saw the promos and pulled their sponsorship out. Yeah.
Pulled it. And, and after a while, it got so much and the reason they released them, and of course they went and had to run in ECW right after that, was because it got to be where people were so mad they wouldn't come to the shows. You know, it started hurting, and then they drew there for a while, you know, but it got to be where people just wouldn't come. They were that mad.
They was that turned off and that mad.
Yeah. They just got, well, one night, do you remember this, Bobby, at the Coliseum? And I can't remember who they were working with then. It might have been me and Tony. I don't remember. But the NAACP was there. And Jack went out there and dogged them and cussed them and called them Uncle Toms and everything.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes. I do think it was either Johnson City or the Coliseum. He went out and browbeat the NCAA. Yes, NCAA.
NAACP came and Jack cut a promo on them. I think they tried to talk to Jack like he was a kid or something. I don't remember how it was, but they kind of disrespected him and Mustafa. And
they said what they was doing was they weren't helping the cause, basically.
You
know, to keep educating African Americans or blacks, etc. And what they were doing was actually setting them back in time. And New Jack just cut a promo on him, man. Yeah.
Oh,
that was at the Coliseum. He just buried him. Yes. Yes, I do remember that. I sure did.
He sure did. And they left. And it was a big deal, you know, and it made the news and everything, you know. I mean, back then there wasn't no social media, you know, there wasn't cell phone, there wasn't any of that, you know, there wasn't the internet much at all. No, it's going a little, but word of mouth and all, but they made all the local newspaper, made the news in Knoxville, everything.
Yeah.
Are you shocked, Tracy, that nothing happened to, like, when I mean nothing, are you shocked that they didn't get harmed? Because I'm still amazed that New Jack and Mustafa made it out of Smoky Mountain Wrestling without a fan getting a hold of them. Because I watched the promos. They loved it.
They loved it. They loved every minute of it. They were never afraid. They were never scared. And in the ring, they do whatever he wanted to do. And they get a little, ever so often, Jack, he took that thing serious. And I used to tell him, I go, this is a gimmick. And he didn't like that rebel flag thing at all. And Mustafa, not so much either, but Jack didn't. Sometimes he'd get a little crazy in the ring with me and like almost have a flashback or something. And I'd tell him, I go, Jack, this is Tracy here. This is Tracy. Because he would listen to everything in the ring. He'd listen, whatever he wanted to do, he would do it. And he'd come up with crazy stuff he wanted to do, you know, and stuff. And you try to put it in the right place and all that. And their attitude, they had a great attitude, everything. But he'd get a little crazy sometimes. I remember Mustafa throwing a punch at me, not to hit me, but one night. And then I looked up and I said, Mustafa, this is Tracy. Okay? This is Tracy. I love you guys, man. We're trying to draw money. You know, I didn't get mad. I never did. But there was one time when Jack did a thing and spit on me. And I clotheslined him and knocked him goofy one night, you know, and we didn't have no words about it. But he got so upset because I did it, retaliated back, and he freaked out. And Jack liked to do, you know, he partied, you know, and he had an anxiety attack and was so fired up and mad he went into a seizure in the dressing room, and they had taken him to the hospital. I saw him the next day, and he just like Tracy, he says, you know, you hit me hard, and it's this other dude. And he goes, I was so mad at you. He said, I about lost my mind. I said, Jack, you lost your mind when you come in and did that promo the first night. You know, I said, you okay? I said, my God. I said, I'm out there to work with you and draw money. We try to draw money with you. You guys this is the best, hottest gimmick going, you know, and, you know, things like that.
Yeah, but, you know, it's funny that that first promo, you know, you mentioned the thing he said about OJ in the first promo, but he also said, I don't know if you remember this, Bobby. He said, where I'm from, the way we take care of people is we douse them with gasoline and set them on fire.
Yeah.
I mean,
But they do. They do. I mean, he wasn't on bull BS. He's from Atlanta. He was from, He played football in college at I can't remember. It's an all-black school, and we played them. And I played at Carson Newman. I can't remember the dang name of them, and I'll think of it when I get not Morris Brown, something like that. I can't, But anyway, there's more. He did more. Oh, this is an ECW. This is after there. Jack had a warrant. He got in some trouble in a few places there and couldn't come to some of the towns. Because they had warrants for him. And back in, they wouldn't mess with you if you wasn't in the county, but at ECW, in 97 or 98, we had like, the Dudleys, FBI, me and Guido, Balls and Axel, and the gangsters Mustafa had already left and moved out west, and they put, John Cronus, God rest his soul, with New Jack, as the gangsters. Or they call them, what do you call them, Eliminator Gangsters or something? I don't know.
They call them the Gangstanators.
Yeah, that's
something
it.
like
that's
that.
It. All right. I believe that's it. Just what you said. Well, I guess Tim was a bondsman, and that is his job. Horner, he had, of course, already left. It was 97, 98, big show in Pittsburgh. And they had the belts on Guido and I, and they were keeping the belts on us, but we'd always taken ass whooping, you know what I mean? And that was the gimmick, these guys, bounty hunters, there's 3 guys come up to get Jack off of that warrant. Okay. Well, this is no lie. We were, at the show in Monaca, right outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the big dome. And they had like the biggest crowd, one of the biggest crowds they had like 5,000 people there. I think it was the night Shane either worked with Bam Bam Bigelow. I believe it was Bam Bam, took the belt off of Bam Bam, or Raven. But no, it wasn't Raven. It was Bam Bam. That was the main event. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they had like a 5-person tag team. Well, the bounty hunters come up to get New Jack and to take him in. And Paul says, look, guys, he says, we put a lot into this pay-per-view, the same thing. He said, can you arrest him after, let him work, let him do his job, and then whatever y'all got to do, take him back to Tennessee. That's where they were going to take him, extradite him back to Tennessee. And it was 3 guys, and they were badass guys, they didn't mess around. And they were from, of course, Knoxville area. And I believe it was Boystown, Tennessee is where he had the warrant. Now, Tim lived there. He was a bondsman. I mean, he had to do his job. They knew Tim was a wrestler. Tim didn't want to, you know what I mean? He didn't want to pop him, in that dude. But, they were coming down on him because he hadn't already done it. And something like Tim wasn't with them, but they came through his bonding company, something like that. And them guys were serious, man. I remember they standing around. They didn't talk to nobody. They didn't talk to none of us. We didn't talk to them either. And well, during the match, you knew some way that New Jack was going to get out of there. Okay, you knew that. You just knew that, right? And he didn't know how. He didn't ask. He didn't do nothing. Well, the story, and I can remember, you knew that New Jack was going to be gone. He thanked us, everybody, before we went in the ring and all that. And dude, he said, "I'll see y'all down the road a little bit, whatever." And the whole 9 yards. Well, Bubba and Devon, he worked with them a lot, during that time. And they did some kind of spot where they fought outside, and they had a van waiting up for New Jack. And they fought outside and went out the door and had the van pulled right up to the door. And they went outside and did that. And Bubba and Devon come back in, and we were all fighting all over the arena and everything, and I didn't know exactly how they were going to get him out of there. But anyway, the van pulls, he's sitting there waiting. They fly outside. New Jack gets in the van, goes down in the floorboard. They get him out of there. Got him and took him I think they took him to the airport, and he might have flew out that night, or however he got home, he went home. And I can't remember where Jack, I think Jack was living in Philly then. I think somebody got him, drove him from Pittsburgh to Philly. He would tell you better than me. And everything. But yeah, man. Yeah. 1997, 98. It wasn't in Smoky Mountain. That was Smoky Mountain was done, but it was off of there. Yeah.
They called the spot where he worked to the outside so he could leave. That's good.
Walked outside, went out the side door there, and you know, at the back part of the arena, and you know, and just everybody, you know, 8, 10 guys all going, you know, and there, and just they whatever did, and it was real brief. And I looked up and I seen them go outside. And then, you know, Jack fighting both of them in Cronus, you know what I mean? You know, and they all 4 went outside, and I didn't really hit me. And then the only ones come back in was Devon and Bubba and Cronus. And Jack wasn't with them. I didn't say that about it. I said, "Where's Jack?" They said, "Oh, that was a spot there. We had that with him. We kayfabed everybody." You know what I mean? I think only Bubba, Devon, and of course Jack and Cronus. I don't even know if Cronus knew. But Paul E, you know, and Tommy Dreamer, you know what I mean? You know, but Paul did the speech before we, you know, we always called it Paul's State of the Union speech, and I did it before there, and he said, "Here we have convicted felons, we have this, we have that, and that to do, but we can get through this, and you know, this, we got a lot riding on it." And he told them, he says, "You know, this is going to hurt our business bad if you don't let him do this." And boy, them guys were mad. And of course, everybody played like we didn't know nothing about it. Didn't know how he got out of there or nothing. Played dumb. Like, where is he? Where is New Jack? Everybody was doing that because, you know, you didn't want to see him get him, you know, and the boys stick together. You know what I mean? Even if they didn't like each other, they stick together. Yeah. And, I can remember New Jack and Pitbull Anthony, big bald head. He's dead now. God rest his soul. Tough guy. Both of them, of course, crazy. And I can remember it was in this isn't about Smoky Mountain, but this was in Queens, New York, and they had some heat over something. I don't know. The pit bulls that got popped on something drug related, and they were just working out in the ring, and like as trainers, kind of, and helping. They couldn't let them wrestle for some reason. I don't know, but there's a lot of heat built up with him and New Jack, and I can remember them getting into a fight in the dressing room, and I was wore out, tired, been working a lot, working for them in other places. I just fought traffic from Newark to the Elks Lodge there, and God, 15 miles took like 4 hours, and they started fighting that, and I just said, I'm too tired to help break them up. And finally, Bubba and Devon were trying to, and of course, Dreamer, and then everybody did, and dude, they tried to kill each other, man. They tried to, because you could see they were both going for each other's eyeballs and just everything they could do. Well, the next night in the arena, that was on a Friday night, somebody sucker punched Mikey Whipwreck. Remember him?
Yeah.
Remember him?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah,
well,
I remember.
The first 2 that hit the ring and fighting side by side and hitting people who look like fucking rock'em sock'em robots was New Jack and Anthony right beside each other, just beating that. And I stand up on the gimmick table. I said, "Look at that, Tommy." To Tommy Rich, I said, "Look at them 2 motherfuckers right there. Try to kill each other last night. Now they're fighting like side by side, like they're brothers." You know, and they did watched each other's back, and they beat the hell out of some guys, man. And afterwards, they were back in the back, you know, drinking beer and hanging out and whatever else they do. You know what I mean? And just crying and laughing and thanking each other. Go, "I'm sorry, I love you, man." And everything else. And me and Tommy went up and said, "You 2 motherfuckers tried to kill each other. It took the whole dressing room to split you up. And now look at you. Now you're in love, about to get married." But that's the old saying, because that's the way even your worst enemy, if you needed help, would be there. And guys that you thought you were real cool with, not as cool as you thought when you needed help. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, we were pulling New Jack and Anthony off all those guys. They about killed them, man. They looked like rock'em sock'em robots is what it looked like. They were just making a pass, just beating the hell out of it. Just wailing, kicking, headbutting people, everything.
Oh boy.
Sure.
Hey, Bobby, you I'm gonna start wrapping things up, man, because I feel like I got enough of y'all time tonight. I don't want to keep y'all on too much longer. Bobby, you got anything else for Tracy before I get out of here, man? Before we get out of here?
It's just a pleasure to get to do a podcast with you, and also it's a pleasure to hear Tracy and get to do a podcast with Tracy. So, it's all good with me, man, and we could go on with a bunch more memories, I'm sure. And I had some different stories with the gangsters, but none of them could top what Tracy just not finished with. So let's end on a high note with that, But just want to say thanks, man, and thanks to the fans of booking the territory. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Mike, for having me on the show with Tracy. And you know me, man. I'm going to go.
When is this going to play? When is this podcast here going to play?
Now, Tracy, cut me off. Let me say one more thing before he says
I'm
that.
sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Pin me, pay me. That way, when Tracy says, when's this going to play? You buy my book when you hear when Tracy says, when's this going to play? You go buy Pin Me, Pay Me, one of my books. Take it over, Tracy. Thank you, Mike.
Love you, Bobby. Love you, man.
Tracy. Love you, brother.
Yes, be good. I'll see you around.
Hey everybody, I want to welcome back Tracy Smothers to Booking the Territory and the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Podcast. Tracy, like I told you in New Orleans, I want to thank you again for coming on a second time. It's been 2 years since you were on last time. We talked about a lot of stuff, so I figured, hey, I'll bring you back on and we can talk about a few other things. But how you doing today, man? You hanging in there?
Yeah, all right. As I say, I just work outside and burn up, boy. Man, I swear, gallons. It's crazy. Yeah, doing fine. How's your world?
It's a hot summer, and I don't understand people who don't like the winter. Not that I have to deal with winter where I'm at, but man, I don't know. I'd prefer the cold as opposed to this heat during the summertime personally. But that's just my opinion. How about you?
Either one's rough. You gotta. They say it takes your body 2 weeks to a month to adjust to the seasons. You know what I mean? And now with the way the atmosphere is, the ozone layer, it's hot. Yeah, that sun's, that heat index is higher and the humidity's higher than it ever was when we were kids. It's crazy.
I had a friend say that. He said,
cold weather. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I had a friend say that. He said, "Man, you can't tell me that's the same sun that we played in as kids."
Yeah, it just seems a lot more intense, doesn't it? I know we're older, but they say that, that ozone layer ate up a lot of all the stuff that's shooting into space and all the nuclear plants, and, you know what I mean? All that. So, but the cold weather, always old injuries, boy, oh Lord. But the weather change, the drastic weather change always gets to me. It just kicks your ass. It does. It's rough.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, let me get started on a few questions. I actually had some listener questions this time, man, because everybody's been I just want to tell you, everybody's been following along with this Smoky Mountain show we've been doing now for over 3 years. We've got less than a year to go. Just a message from all the listeners out there. They love you in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. They love everything that you did in the promotion. It's been a fun ride these first 3 years. You came in, I want to say, 5 months or so into Smoky Mountain's run. So everybody out there, they just want to say thank you for your Smoky Mountain run. And I know Smoky Mountain meant a lot to you. And like you told me when we were in New Orleans, you were saying it was just a fun run, wasn't it?
Yeah. I got released from WCW, and you got kind of the chip on your shoulder and just felt like you had something to prove, and that was getting new and getting going. And I could say it, Jimmy, every now and then I'd see him, or he would call me like once a month, and he didn't come out and say what he was doing, but he was working on something, and he stayed in touch with me for about a year. And because I was really considering getting out of the business in '92 when I got released, and going back, finishing getting my degree and go coach and teach, he taught me how to. If it wasn't for him, I would have got out. 92, I would have got out. I don't know to hug him or to shoot. I don't know to hug him or to shoot him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No. Yeah. I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
He did. He about once a month he'd call me, or I'd see him. When I was finishing up WCW a couple times, he came by and stuff just to see the boys. Because him and Stan had left out of there. Bobby stayed, and they'd walked out. Before that, I don't want to say that. I can't remember about him and Stan.
No. I remember the circumstances. We've talked about it on the show, like when they left and everything, but. Hey, I got a question for you. We've told the story on the show of how like Stan Lane met Ric Flair and how Stan got in the wrestling business through meeting Ric Flair. Stan is somebody we've talked about all the time on both of our NWA shows and Smoky Mountain shows since he was there, through much of the early part of Smoky Mountain. You got any outrageous Stan Lane stories from your time either in Smoky or
I don't know if it's kind of known, but I don't know how it is. Steve Kern, Stan Lane, when they were the Fabulous Ones in the old USWA, CWA for Jerry Waller and Jerry Jarrett, when they were a team and they were for years, they trained me. Stan and Steve trained me in the business, and I trained with them, and then after that I trained with Tojo Yamamoto, and then after that I was a lot around Bob Armstrong, you know what I mean? You know, and but Stan, boy, I tell you, back in the day, the Fabs were so hot, they were over. You know, it was when not long around the same time when WWF started going nationwide, but maybe a little before that's when they were really hot. You know, and they were Stan. You'd see Stan out at the bars. He was a bachelor, and you know what I mean. And he'd run around. He'd drink a little bit, but he always took care of himself good, and you know, and always was. You know, Stan was everywhere. You know, and Steve was married, kids, you know, and everything, and you know, was a family man. But Stan was out there, boy. He was a bachelor. You know what I mean? He was having a good time. He was back in the '80s. I mean, they were a big deal. God, some of the shows I went with them a couple times when I first, you know, they were training me, and they were like rock stars. The way they'd mob the car, they had security, get them in the car and everything out of there, everything. It was crazy, you know, and you don't see that. But it's a different era, you know, and man, they were over, and you know, trained me, showed me a lot, taught me. I learned a lot riding the car with them, and it was always good to me. And then to get to work in WCW, I was around Stan some in '87 at the old Florida territory, Florida Championship Wrestling, and I remember when Stan, I was there when he got the call to put him with Bobby Eaton, Midnight Express. Dennis Condrey had went on hiatus, just he disappeared, you know. And Stan got the call, and then got to work with Steve, and I got to work with him and Bobby a few times there in '87 when Crockett had bought it out of the Florida office and made it like a farm league, kind of like, you know.
Right.
And Dusty and them would come in, and we got to work with them in St. Pete, Florida. I remember that in '87, and then we went up for a week or so. We got to work with them in Baltimore, Greenville, South Carolina, and Charlotte, you know, in '87. And then again in '90, when I was in WCW, Steve and I got to work with them. And I believe it was yesterday, Mike, the 29th anniversary of that card, Great American Bash, when Sting took the belt off of Ric Flair. And we went to Midnight Express that night. Yeah. It was toward, I believe it was 29 years ago.
I was going to ask you about that. We actually had a question. Like I said, I had polled some of the listeners you know, on our Patreon page, and a gentleman by the name of Don Depinet, he said, in his opinion, one of the greatest tag team matches he had ever seen was the Southern Boys versus the Midnight at the 1990 Great American Bash. What memories do you have of that match and that night? I think I've heard you talk about this before. And it sounded like you had good memories from it, and Jimmy and Stan pretty much laid things out. The Midnight pretty much laid things out for y'all. But what kind of memories you got from that match?
Jimmy, Stan, Bobby, you know what I mean? You know, and we just followed and, you know, and listened and worked on, and we worked together nightly for 2-3 weeks there before we had that match there. And just had not been home. We just wore out tired. Well, I remember that. You know, and God, I mean, the energy in the Baltimore arena was a classic arena, you know, and that was you know, that was something when you're a young man. And first pay-per-view I ever been on, I threw up from it. The ring, I was nervous, you know, even though we worked with them every night, you know, and then they're just so relaxed and just such great people to work with, you know. I'll tell you, Jimmy, you know, Stan, Bobby, of course, Steve, you know, yeah, it was awesome. You know, so, but it got good reviews, you know, everywhere, and always have people, you know, mention that to me about that. And shortly after that, it seemed like we had the book, and him and Jimmy didn't agree on stuff. You know how it is. And what I remember was I didn't know what they exactly were going to do. We had done the what's that, Halloween Havoc we did, and Steve Midnight worked with Ricky Morton and Tommy Rich. Robert had blew his knee out. It was in Chicago, and then we were working with Kevin Nash and Al Green. They were called Master Blasters or something. I can't remember, something like that. Jimmy got into they were wanting to bust a punk and know Jimmy or something. and yeah, Jim Hurd's idea, something like that. And Jimmy's like, Jimmy, he's going off. He's like, fuck no, GD this, that, I'm not doing that. Oh, fuck that, fuck you, fuck everyone. I mean, he was going ballistic, and I don't know what's going on, and I didn't understand. And we're just all sitting there and just go there, do whatever we need to do. I mean, you're working for Ted Turner, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever was their business, and they had us do a thing where we come out and had on dressed like Jimmy Cornette with the tennis rackets, and everything, and glasses on and all, and then the crazy outfit. You know how Jimmy wore on crazy suits, and stuff, and had that, and distracted them and caused them to get beat, and then they did something where he come out and caused us to get beat, and we thought we were going to work with them, but then we got to TV. I believe it was a little after that, if I'm right. I can't remember how exactly we did. All I know is I got to TV, and Jimmy and Stan had walked out at TBS, center stage TV.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the big WCW show was WCW Saturday Night.
Right.
And so Steve, my old partner, was sick. Something hit him, man. I can't remember. He was pretty bad sick. Couldn't be there. So they put me in a single match, and I got to work Bobby Eaton in a single match. And, and of course, Bobby was great, and it went good, and all. And I think Steve and I must have started working with Freebirds after that, but Stan and Bobby was gone. Or Stan and Jimmy, I mean,
Yeah. I do remember that. You're talking about Ole. Did you get along with Ole?
He was always all right to me. Ole's an asshole prick to everybody. That's just Ole. That's the way he is. If he wasn't firing on you about something, that's when you better worry. You know what I mean? Like some of them coaches, they're not riding your butt real hard. You better watch it. But that's how Ole was. Yeah, he was always good to me. I mean, I could never say nothing bad about Ole. He'd be right up front with you. If he had a problem with you, he'd let you know.
Yeah.
You got to respect that. I'd rather that, go behind your back. You know what I mean?
No, you actually nailed it on something. It's like when those coaches actually they when they ride your ass about different things and they get on you, then it's like, oh well, yeah, it's a good thing. Like, because if they didn't care, they'd leave you the hell alone and they wouldn't tell you a word.
Right. So it's kind of that's the way he was. That's the way I took it with him. And, Bill Watts was that way. You know what I mean? And that's the way you took it with God. That's how they operated, and you just that's the way it is.
Yeah. Speaking of Ole, you worked a program with Brian Anderson, who didn't have a long career based on everything we looked at. What was it like working with Brian in Smoky Mountain Wrestling? Because it's a weird.
Come out of he just come out of collegiate wrestling. He wrestled UT Chattanooga. Of course, he was around the Atlanta area somewhere. With his dad, and he had worked from WCW, and I don't remember how it all went. But boy, we would work at heat, wrestle, no high spots, nothing. And Jimmy had his first one.
You fade, Tracy. You're fading out. I can barely hear you. I don't know if it's your signal.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Hello? Is that okay? Are you hearing me?
I can hear. That's better.
Okay. Anyway, Jimmy had us working. At first, we were doing like 10-minute Broadways, I think, and then 20-minute Broadways, and went to 30-minute Broadways. And we do a lot of wrestling, like working a shoot, and some a little bit of shoot, actual wrestling, boy, it got me in ring shape fast. Brian was a beast, he was a great wrestler, and he was a wrestler, straight up wrestler, if I'm right, I believe he worked pro with me for 3-4 months, and I don't know if he ever. I believe he went back to school. It seemed like I saw only a few years ago at a convention. And he said I believe he's a lawyer now.
Yeah, you are
like
correct.
That.
We looked it up. I know he wasn't in Smokey for too long, but you're right. You and he worked that program for a while.
Yeah,
a lot of mat wrestling.
Well,
yeah, and that was it. And then he went to school and became an attorney.
Yeah. He never had nothing to do with it again.
Good for him, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for him. But any lasting memories of that feud besides the mat wrestling and I didn't realize y'all had done so much, like, I guess, house shows and spot shows where y'all were doing a lot of 30 and 45-minute Broadways.
We did a lot of 20, 30-minute Broadways. Sure did. Wrestling. You know what I mean? Fireman's carries and takedowns, switches, side rollers, all that. And kind of working and shoot, and do. You're on the mat, and you're the guy that just come out of college wrestling. I wrestled in school, but it'd been a while. And it gets you in shape. He was in great shape, cardio, wrestling shape, But I'd like to see some of those matches. I can't see. I don't know if there is any on YouTube or not. I'm sure you can type it in. I guess.
I don't.
Anything, right?
I'd have to look to see what's on YouTube as far as like the house shows and whatnot. The stuff that you guys did on TV on the weekly episodes was a lot of promos. Yeah. There was some. I mean, you guys had a couple of matches on TV, but it was nothing real long. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just quick stuff. So, but we had a question from David Jordan, wanted to know that, one of our longtime listeners and a Patreon member, so he was asking about that. So I wanted to make sure I got that in regarding Brock Anderson. Everyone talks about ECW, but there are matches in Smoky Mountain, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but I've never asked you this, where there are, everybody involved is eventually an ECW type person. Do you think that Smoky Mountain gets enough credit for being, I'll call it, I guess this is my words, innovative in 1994, in that, I swear, not that it was extreme, but I felt like Smoky Mountain, there were times in Smoky Mountain where it felt like we were watching a precursor to some of the stuff we end up seeing with the talent in ECW. I mean, I don't have to say it, Chris and Balls and,
Yeah, a lot of guys went on there and other places too and did real well. WWF, WCW, all that. But Jimmy would build just things like that, the hardcore type matches. You know what I mean? He didn't just throw it out there and do it. He did the old territory style, and he'd make it mean something. He didn't just throw it out there, a street fight or cage match or anything. He built to that. He built to that to his big shows and stuff like that. That's what I can remember. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure some ideas got took from a lot of people, stuff he did, and he got a lot of his stuff from the old Memphis area, but he modified how he wanted to present it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Jimmy, great mind. He taught me how to do interviews. He did babyface interviews. He taught me how to do interviews. Period. And he did. And I just followed him. You know what I mean? He gave me bullet points. He didn't memorize nothing and get over, and how you feel most comfortable presenting it. And of course, nobody does do an interview like him. I seen Paul E. try to debate him one time. I want to say 90 or 91. It was pay-per-view in the bar that day. He tried to debate with Jimmy. Jimmy cut him up quick.
Did he?
Nobody's got the gift of gab like Jimmy. No, Jimmy cut him up, boy. Paulie, he backed right off. He did.
Hey, and that's saying something, Tracy, because I mean, Paul can promo. I mean, he can talk.
Yeah,
it's not like he's a schlub or something, you know. And for
Jimmy cut
Cornette,
him up and Missy Hyatt, both of them. They were in there together, just hanging out. You know what I mean? And, I mean, it was all good fun. It was nothing, you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, it was all good, but. He didn't want no part of Jimmy.
he cut up Paul, and who else? Who else did you say was there?
Missy Hyatt. I believe Missy was with him, and I don't think.
Okay, Miss.
Paul. They just went back, and you know what I mean. You know,
yeah.
Well, Jimmy really is the one that gave Paulie his big break when the original Midnight Express come into WCW.
Yep, they did that angle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
He got him on the big stage, you know what I mean? You know, and nationwide TV. And,
Jimmy gets on the roll, man. He starts slicing people up. That's ridiculous.
Oh God, amazing. If I play on my computer, if I'm good on YouTube, if I run across anything, dude, if it ain't too long, I usually will listen to Jimmy. He just buries everything. He tells it like it is. He tells it like it's funny.
You know, we talked to him. Been 3 years ago now when we were first starting the Smoky Mountain show. We had him on, and we equated you to. And I don't know if you'll agree with this or you know or not, but we equated you to like you were almost like the Hulk Hogan of Smoky Mountain. And hear me out first when I say that you were that baby face that these people loved. And I swear, man, you'd come out swinging that Confederate flag, whipping it around, and these people would lose their mind behind their Tracy Smothers with their stars and bars. And it's glorious, man, when you watch it. You were, again, I'm using the term loosely when I say you were like their Hogan, but it was amazing. Now, as I say that, I do think also Dirty White Boy Tony Anthony. Oh my God, his greatness on display was there too. So
Rock and Roll Express, you know what I mean? That revitalized their career. That run there, it did. Jimmy put them back together, you know, and drew their first big house in Johnson City. Sure did. And you in the Heavenly Bodies, you know, Stan, Tom Pritchard, and Jimmy Del Rey. What a team! Oh man, Jimmy Del Rey was a great worker, and you know, Brian Lee, and Sonny, you know, of course, and then you go over here. Unabomber Kane, Al Snow. There's so many. D'Lo Brown, the Gangsters. You know, I mean, just gosh, you know, it was unreal.
Well, see that Tracy, that's the thing.
Boo Bradley, you know, he
Chris
brought
Candido.
Yes, Chris Candido.
See, that's what I'm saying. It's amazing, you know, like people talk about like ECW's contributions to pro wrestling and all the talent that came from ECW, which
certainly did. Yeah.
When you go through the Smoky Mountain alumni, a lot of people came from Smoky Mountain that did great things.
Well, another one too, Brian Clark. He was God, what was he called?
The Night Stalker.
Yeah, he was Night Stalker in Smoky Mountain. And he'd worked WCW a little before that, and Jimmy brought him into Smoky Mountain, and then he went to WWF as I can't remember what he was called.
Adam Bomb.
That's it. And then he went from there and went to WCW, and had a long run there with him and Brian Adams. God rest his soul, you know. And you know, and then he went back up to WWE for a bit, but I don't know what happened. But he was a great talent. He should still be out there, you know, making money and going and you know what I mean. A lot of politics in the business, you know, in anything you do. You know, but
I agree. I mean, I look at Tracy, and I want your thoughts on this person. Like I look at a guy like Tony Anthony, which I think
he's great.
Like to me, I'd almost make that. A guy like him, if you couldn't pick Cornette or you couldn't, you know, if you couldn't pick Jimmy as like an MVP of Smoky Mountain for its run, I feel like Tony Anthony just was, he was superb, whether it was a heel in the feud he worked with you or he was a babyface. How good was Tony Anthony, if you could speak on that?
Oh, he was great. He was old school heel, could work off the fly, didn't have to set up nothing. He caught all in the ring and could do anything. Tony never would work out. That's the only thing. He never liked to diet. He didn't like to work out. He didn't. And that's why. If it wasn't for that, he'd have went a lot further. Believe me, he would have, because he was just fantastic. Jimmy had all the good workers in there. Young Chris Michaels started in there. Flash Flanagan, and remember the Headbangers?
Yeah,
remember them? The Headbangers.
Yep.
Jimmy's the one who gave them that gimmick, and they modified it up when they went, to WWF. Jimmy's the one brought them in and gave them that gimmick. Sure did.
When you think about Tony Anthony, though, and as the Dirty White Boy and Smokey, and then you see what happened when he went to the WWF and he's TL Hopper. What does that make you think when he has to stoop down? And,
they copyright everything. And, but see, they do these interviews. They're creative. They were Bruce and them and did it, and they wanted to know your personal background. And you talk to other people. I don't know. There's some of them writers, and nerdy. You know what I mean? Sitcom writers and stuff. But they want to know your background and stuff. And see, Tony's dad was a plumber, and a legit plumber. And Tony used to help him some with his business. He had his own business, and Tony took it over for a short time when his dad retired. And Tony had a car wreck, and Tony was head of security, I believe, at a big corporation or some pretty good job. But it seemed like he had a car wreck, hurt his back real bad. He had to be on disability, and I think he is now. He's not getting around so good. None of us are. And that's why they come off the plumber. That's like Bill Irwin was a good hockey player. Wild Bill Irwin. Instead of Wild Bill Irwin, they made him a hockey player.
He was on the show with me, Wild Bill, a couple years back. A little bit before I talked to you. He actually told me the story. He said he was talking to Bruce Pritchard on the phone, and he said Bruce was talking to him about, what are we gonna do with you, Bill? What are we gonna do with you, Bill? And he says, well, I mean, I can play hockey, and then he starts explaining to Bruce Pritchard what he can do, and
because Bill was from Minnesota.
Right. He's from Minnesota. Originally, and he was a hockey player. So, that's what how the Goon was born. But you're right. It's just what the reason I bring up Tony Anthony with this is you have unlike you and I and people who've watched like a lot of Southern wrestling or fans of Southern wrestling or the territories. We saw a lot of guys like not only yourself but Tony. And then we see them in these, have these really, really good careers and do really, really good things, whether it's in WCW or Memphis or Smoky Mountain, Mid-South, etc. And then there's people out there who really only know Tony Anthony as TL Hopper, and that's the injustice. Is my point.
That's
you know what
I
mean?
Shame, isn't it? That's a shame. I know. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a tragedy when you think about it like that. Now, hey, I want to ask you a question. You and I talked about the Gangsters a lot the last time you were on. The Gangsters. Jimmy has said they just drew too much heat, and the people just were literally they didn't even want to come to the shows, the smaller towns at least. The big shows, he said it wasn't a problem. It was the smaller ones. You think Jimmy could have done anything differently, or it just was, no, New Jack is who he was, and it was going to be what it was?
I think that's what you said. It was going to be what it was. But, oh, my God, I don't know if I told you this the last time when I was on. But I remember when the NAACP showed up at Knoxville. And Jack got on the mic and started calling him Uncle Tom and going off on him. I think those guys got pissed. They were mad. They left. Yeah. The guy left. People from the NAACP and Juju, hey, I heard the NAACP was out here. Yeah, where's that Uncle Tom motherfucker at? Yeah, I don't think he said MS. But,
no, he called them. I'll tell you what he said, Tracy. I'll refresh your memory. His exact words was, he said, the NAACP here, they're a bunch of trained Negroes, is the exact word he used.
I can't remember, what he come out and called him Uncle Tom or what. He went there and boy, I remember that. And they left.
but
I
they
think it
had
was you
so
that
much
told
heat.
me. I think it was you that told me. It may have been you or Bobby. I don't remember. One of y'all told me that the Rock and Roll were watching either that promo or the first promo on the monitor, and Ricky just got a gleam in his eye. Ricky Morton, that is, and looked over at Jim Cornette and said, "We about to make some money with this, Jimmy." Is that what?
Yeah, it was somewhere. It was on the border. This town was on the border of like Tennessee, North Carolina, and close to Virginia too. But it was in North Carolina. If I had a map, I could show you the town. And this is true on my kids. I mean, we got there, and of course you knew, they bringing them in and knew who they were. Didn't know them, you know what I mean? And they were Tennessee or Jack had, and stop around Georgia. But those boys are from around Atlanta. They brought their boys, their posse, with them.
Right.
There's about 15 or 20 of them. You got that tape that we're all around the ring and everything. And there's a bunch of them boys, man. Big old boys, gangsters. Straight up, real deal. No work, no nothing. That's what they were. And they come out to do the interview, and these guys come from the parking lot and just come in the building and all lined around the ring. And Jack was over talking, and the cops there, these guys they were playing. You know what I mean? And they come over to me and they go, the guy goes, and because they were cool, they loved wrestling and everything, and they were the real deal, and they were, and all but their job that do, and I don't think there was many, African American people live around there. I don't think there's any at all. And I'm not really sure. I didn't ask, much. But the cop, he he's like, went to me, and I'm a country boy. I'm not a hillbilly. You know what I mean? There's a difference. And I'm not. The gimmick is a gimmick. I don't think like that. I don't portray it like that. And that won't. I was in New Orleans a few years ago. They wanted me to. 2-3 years ago, but I go every year. But they want me to say something about that monument thing they took down. I'm like, I don't really got to do that. I don't.
Oh, Luke,
that has nothing to do with what I'm doing.
I gotta stop you. Luke wanted you to say something about Lee Circle and the monument that they took down in New Orleans. I gotta. That's funny. I'm laughing that he wanted you to talk about that. But go ahead, Tracy.
No, it wasn't Luke. It wasn't Luke that did, and I can't remember who it was. Maybe Luke. I don't believe Luke did. I don't think he did. It seemed like somebody there that kind of helped Luke out with things. Said, boy, these people go crazy. I can't remember. A few people, in my ear, kind of tell to do it, but it wasn't Luke. Luke was boss, so it's Luke's company. You know what I mean? Cat, all the way, but I don't believe it was Luke. Maybe it was.
Okay.
I don't remember. You know how it is,
Yeah.
But I honestly, I didn't really say. I thought to them when they said that to me, and I thought, I don't really got to do that. That's not really in my spiel. And when I do anyway to get heat, I don't portray it like that. It's just a gimmick. I just like to choke people. you know what I mean? That's how I kind of looked at it. I mean, I didn't look at it. I looked at it as a gimmick. It depends on where you're at, how
Right. So you were saying about the cops in North Carolina.
Honestly, during my interview out there, I forgot about it. You know what I mean? I go with what the crowd's kind of buying and what they're getting, and I didn't feel, I didn't remember it even coming into my mind when I was out there talking. Go ahead. What are you saying? Yeah. The cop. The cop.
He comes
over to me. He goes, "Hey man," he looks at me. He goes, "Hey man," he goes, "Look, what the fuck's going on here?" Like that. He looked right at me. It said it. He put his hands out like, what is this? And I said, this is an interview. I said, these guys are starting in here, and they're going to be a big, bad guy team for us and everything, and more likely it'll be, in a storyline with Rock and Roll Express. I just smartened him up. You know what I mean? I could, because he wasn't real happy, and the other cops weren't either. And he goes, well. He said, okay. He goes, I get it. It's all for the show and everything. Something to that point. I can't remember exactly how it went. He wasn't real happy. And he said, but they need to get out of this county when this is over.
And I said, well, I'm sure they will be. You know? And that's when he did the thing. He said, hey, when it happened with OJ, you know, and he said, hey, OJ, you know, keep up the good work. You got 2 of them down or something like that, you know. And that's what Jimmy, and it was somewhere in there, and that's when Ricky went, oh, Lord, he was like, we can draw money with these guys. I said, we're going to get killed, what we're going to get, y'all. I said, this cop just went off, man. I said, they're ready to go. I mean, they're going to go ballistic. And Jimmy loved it, you know, and I was like, in rock and roll, they loved it. And I was scared. I thought, oh, Lord, I was worried for them, you know, and, you know, because they're just out there doing their, you know what I mean, doing the gimmick. And Jack, they lived it, you know. They lived it.
And Jimmy and Jimmy said like it worked in the big towns. He said it just was the small towns. He said the people,
it was that heat where they, like you said, they turned the channel, or didn't come.
Yeah,
and,
it was.
One time but and that's too bad because they were hilarious and they. God, you know, they were drawing money, you know, and it was really good, and it was unreal. It was 1994. Come on, nobody was doing that, you know, and the wrestling business really wasn't. There's WWF, there was WCW, and there was Smoky Mountain, and there was USWA, and that was about it. There wasn't an independence, you know what I mean, going on, but there wasn't a lot going on. Like there's not near as much as now, and it's a different era. And the business was kind of down a little bit, you know, and that was fresh, you know, and controversial, you know. And he did that interview, and the next week, Jack on the Loop, he rented a Corvette. A green Corvette, drove it down town. And I remember at a fair, and somewhere in that time period, I don't remember when, a fair in Tazewell, Tennessee. Real, hillbillies, man, crazy, you know, coal miners, and you know, and all, and just redneck, crazy people, you know, and no, if I'm right, I don't believe many black people there, or any at all, that lived there. And I can remember we had to take a golf cart to the ring from where they had us dressing. And it was about 100, 200 yards or something. We had to go through the rides a little bit and stuff, and maybe on the midway. I don't remember. But I remember us going, and me, a white boy and I were going to work with them. And we were in the golf cart. And I heard Jack grabs his mic and goes, well, we're the gangsters. We're black. That's what we look like. And you're just like, oh, no, and oh my God, we just get out of here alive. We'll be doing good.
Man, they
another time was in Harlan, Kentucky, and it was on an outside show, or I believe it was on a baseball field. Yeah, and it seemed like we had a long walk to the ring or something. Or maybe we had golf carts there too. I can't remember. But there was 2 boys, outlaw guys, that were up on the apron, and they were trying to get in the ring at New Jack and Mustafa and D-Lo. You know, and dude, they had their sticks on them, and there was a few of them boys, 4 or 5 of them trying to get in the ring. They were trying real hard, but they were, you know, and so Tony and I are working with them, and so we go up on them, and I remember grabbing the guy, and I said, what are you doing? I said, he goes, we're wrestlers too. I said, you're not. I jerked him off the apron, and Tony jerked the other guy off the apron, and they all got off and went over and sat down, you know. But they got into it with them, and was, you know what I mean? And as like fans, as marks, and then, you know, things get said, and next thing you know, these guys are trying to get in the ring.
So New Jack had pissed them off, and they were trying to get into the ring and get a piece of them.
Yeah, they weren't trying real hard. They were keeping their distance. And Jack and them didn't beat them up because, you know, they're out there to work and do, and they didn't want to get in trouble. And they didn't know if they were marks or outlaw guys or what they were really. You know what I mean? You know? But they didn't come in the ring. If they come in the ring, they're fair game. But
right,
you know. Anyway, that happened. Yeah. Oh no.
It's incredible, man. Such a fun time with Smoker.
Oh, what do you want to hear a New Jack story? ECW. It was a big house. They had one of the biggest houses they ever had. ECW, like 5,000 people there. Something in Monaca. Shane used to run that town for Paul. know. And,
You breaking up again, Tracy?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, it was like a four-way tag or something. It was Guido and I, Balls and Axel. It was, remember, Cronus was tagging with New Jack. Mustafa had already moved out to California. Something like that. And I can't remember what they called it, or something. I don't remember. But 4-5. Anyway, bounty hunter from Morristown, Tennessee, up near Knoxville, Tim Horner's town. Two bounty hunters come up to get Moonjack on some kind of warrant out of Morristown area. You know, and I don't know if Tim had anything to do with that dude, but it was Tim's job. I mean, it was right there. They knew he was what it was. You know what I mean? You know?
Right.
And they come up to Paul, and Paul said, "Look, they're a big part of this pay-per-view here. This tag match is a four-way tag. We've been pushing this for months. You know, building to this." And this said, "Afterwards, can you take him in?" And you know, you kind of knew that's what it was. And you know, it was on a felony. I don't know what it was about. I don't know what all it was. I really don't. But I think something happened when he was just smoking out. So I know something like that. Say 97, 98. Well, we all fought all over the building. We started the ring and fought all over the building and everything. And the story I always heard was they had a van out there for Jack and the Dudleys, and Jack and Cronus fought outside. They put Jack in the van and got him out of there. Had his gear and everything, and had his clothes and all that. Well, these guys were mad, man.
He avoided the arrest.
You kind of knew some way he was going to get out of there. I'll just say
right.
That. No, nobody told you nothing, but you just sort of knew, and it was kept quiet, and it was over and done. And them guys were pissed off, man.
As much heat
I think Paulie's dad was a big time lawyer, right? And I think he got Jack out of it some way.
Oh yeah, that would make sense.
Something like that. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question about Tammy in the Gangsters. If now we know how much heat New Jack and the Gangsters had, but what if Jimmy would have put Tammy with them and then she fell for New Jack? Do you think? You think that definitely would?
Here's a true story. Off of that, but it wasn't with New Jack. Jimmy was going to bring in Tony Atlas. Yeah, he was going to bring in Tony Atlas. Put Tammy with Tony, and he was already working with Vince then. Of course, Vince loved Tony Atlas. He always liked Tony Atlas, you know, and knew him from, you know, because Tony worked for his father, and Vince was always into bodybuilding, and you know what I mean. And I think Tony's the one who always put him on a diet and, you know, helped him with his workouts and stuff. And they were always, Vince always liked Tony, still does. And, you know, and everything, you know, Hall of Fame, all that he's done with it. And the word, Jimmy wanted to do that big and really push that envelope with the white girl with the black eye and him being older, you know, too. And it would have worked. And they were having me working with them. And doing a lot of hate on me, you know, get Tony over and Tammy. And you know, young girl, you know, that Hillary Clinton gimmick, remember that? And
yep, I remember.
Yeah. She had. Well, the story we were told was Tony's wife didn't like the idea, and thought that, you know, he, you know, could get in trouble, get arrested, get shot, killed. You know what I mean? You know, I mean, and that was her husband. You know what I mean? You know, and you know, and she just was not keen on it at all. So it didn't happen. And they really didn't have nothing for me. I had worked with a few guys already. You know, I'd worked Tony and I worked Brian Lee, and they didn't have nothing. That was the next thing you had up. And, you know, I was doing some Japan stuff then too, you know. And we were in a fair show in Newport, Tennessee. And Ricky Morton was always Jimmy's assistant booker. A lot of the shows, you know, Jimmy made the big shows. He didn't make a lot of the spot shows. Ricky had, you know, ran the dressing room, you know, and everything, and through Jimmy, you know, and you know, and he was telling me that, you know, and I was like, wow, you know, and he said, he really don't have nothing for you right now, dude. And I just thought, oh, I hope you're gonna let me go. Then I thought, and I said, well, hey, I said, let me move down the card, wherever y'all want me at, mid card, or whatever. And I said, let me work with that kid right there. And he goes, oh, he says, Tim kind of killed him off, and I had him doing the baby bottle matches and all that. Never put him over, and that's what Ricky said. I can't. I remember watching their match. They had great matches, Tim and Chris did. And
they did.
Chris Candido,
good match.
Chris Candido too. I asked to work with him, and Jimmy and Ricky said, "We'll be running by Jimmy," and Jimmy loved it. And said, "Yeah, let's do it." So that's what we did. That's how and then after Chris and Brian tagged up for a while. Tammy managed them.
Yep, that's it. We were talking about Chris in New Orleans, man, and how Tracy, I know this is tough because Chris was such a good guy. You got any? I shouldn't even say you got any good thoughts. Obviously, you got great thoughts of Tim. I'm not Tim. Chris.
Yeah.
Is there? Let me ask this: is there any guy in the wrestling business that got just had worse luck than maybe Chris? And I'm speaking of when he breaks his leg and he has he ends up dying from that. I just think Chris Candido just, if there's an injustice at the top of the pro wrestling game, it's Chris Candido because he was so damn good, and I don't think the world really ever got to realize that.
Oh, he was, he was going to get before that happened. They were going to really go with Chris. He was managing Chase Stevens, Andy Douglas, the Naturals thing, and it was going to work too. 6-man and tags, and singles, whatever. And Dusty was booking TNA, and Dusty loved him. And had big plans for him. And then, we all know what happened. And everything. And I was going to work with him not long. I was going to go to Germany. And Ian Rotten was going to book me working Chris somewhere up around Chicago, and I couldn't wait for that. And I was in the airport, calling him, talking to him, and I was excited about that. It got me motivated. I just got back working, so I took a little time off, and boy, I was motivated to do it. And I got back in Germany, and it was on a Thursday night. I was worked somewhere. Spot show, and it's raining real hard. I remember this. Shane Douglas called me and told me Chris had died of blood clot. I got this leg hard. Probably shouldn't have been flying. And just shocked. Shocked. 2005.
Can you believe, Tracy? That was 14 years ago now.
Yeah. And one of my favorite guys to work with, along with Bobby Eaton and Jerry Lawler, Chris Candido, a great guy. God bless him. It was just a shock,
Yeah.
Still is.
Yeah, and I never met him, but from everyone that I knew that met him and knew him, they all talked about how Bobby Blaze has said how great he was.
Him and Bobby Blaze had great matches. Great matches. Oh man, they were doing stuff back then that people weren't doing. You'd see some of that type of style come in when Eddie Guerrero, Dean, Benoit. You know what I mean? Those guys in WCW were doing it. You know what I mean? And Bobby and Chris were doing it, and just tearing it down.
Yeah, Bobby and Chris had good matches, and like I said, I really thought that he
Bobby was another real underrated. Bobby Blaze, God, he was a hell of a worker. He was. Babyface, he could do anything. Blanco trained him.
Yeah, right. He had great training. I mean, he was a heck of a talent, and I mean he showed it in Smoky Mountain, man. Smoky Mountain was we talked about, we said it was a great place for guys that got started, and Chris was one of those guys who
switched the belt with Lawler. Bobby took the belt off of Lawler, the Smoky Mountain belt off Lawler. So told you there what Jimmy thought of him,
he had a lot of faith in him. I mean, right there, like you said, man, he took the belt off of Lawler, and if that doesn't show you faith in someone, I don't know what does.
Yeah.
Hey, Tracy, I got a question, a couple other questions before we get out of here, man, from some listeners. Bobby Murray, one of our listeners, wants to know, he says he wanted your thoughts on the USWA versus Smoky Mountain feud. And for the record, I only saw the Smoky Mountain episode, so I didn't get to see. I haven't seen whatever happens in USWA, like any angles that were shot as far as that TV goes.
Yeah,
And it was just,
that was wild. We did the TV that day and hit the ring on them and trash cans and everything, and PG-13. You know what I mean? You know, and started in with that, and then they, Doug Gilbert had been in Japan, and when we were getting our heart into it big, they did a surprise thing and brought Doug out as a babyface. And God, the first night Buddy worked with him in Memphis, and the second night I worked with him, and God, man, he was over, boy. You know, they didn't expect that, and they always kept heat on us good. Some of them buildings I had to get police escort out of the building and out of the county, you know, in Louisville especially, you know, and Nashville one night. Yeah, Road Dog Brian James and Armstrong did a thing where put Tommy and Doug over, and then we got heat on them. We handcuffed Tommy and spike pile drive Doug. Oh man, it was a riot situation. I mean, cops were there, everything. I had to run across the building, dive into a car. Somebody took my car and go like 5-10 miles to Trinity Lane, get my car there. I couldn't get out of the building for about an hour. Same thing in Louisville too. I had to run to the front of the building in Louisville. I busted a bottle over Jamie's head in Louisville, and
wow.
Turned heel. I turned heel there. They were really starting to get that going. It was really only rock and roll, you know, kind of doing it then. And they got me involved, and Terry Gordy, Buddy Landau, as I said, you know, and oh, it was crazy. Drew Money did good business there for a while. And we did another one where we come from the front of the building of the Coliseum and hit the ring on them. Did something there too. And you can remember the buzz, you know, and it drew everywhere. It was wild.
That's good that it was drawing during that time when wrestling was still in a recession. You know, I mean, wrestling hadn't truly recovered at that point, and to say that it was, you know, the feud was drawing and the feud was going good, and like you said, the heat that you had, you know, you were fighting your way out of a building. That's
It's crazy. It was crazy. Yeah, it did good business there for a while. Oh,
yeah.
Sure did. Good. And then there toward the end, Jimmy and Randy Hale was getting involved in that. You know, Randy was all along. He booked to see USWA. Jimmy, the bodies, heavyweight bodies come in, you know, and stuff, and you know, and it just it's really good. They worked PG-13. PG-13 was really over back then, and they turned Doug Gilbert and Tommy Rich babyface, and they were over big. Oh man, yeah. Yeah, they were.
Good.
They sure were.
Good stuff, man. That's amazing. Like I said, the fact that wrestling was down at that point. Yeah, good stuff.
Good business.
I got another question. Ben Martin, he wanted to know. He said to ask you about the match you had with Leva Bates. It was insane, and then he also said to ask about a match with you and Sue Young. For the record, I haven't seen this. He also wanted to know the craziest thing you saw as a fan or as a wrestler in ECW as a member of the FBI. But let's start with you and Leva Bates. He wants to know your thoughts on that.
Oh, that was for that girl fight thing Pondo and them do, and Terry Harper, and you know, and they told me just to go out there and rag on her hard, man. You know. Why is a woman wrestling a man, and you know, just be between the sheets, and you know what I mean? You know, just the male chauvinist thing and all, and then put her over. So that's what I did, and I started ragging on her mom hard, you know, and the people were just livid, live, you know, and you know, called me a lot of stuff, man, and everything, you know, just everything, and that was crazy. And she was good worker, Levi, very good, and you know, it got good response, and you know, it was a night off. You know, it was a lot of fun. You know, and it's a lot more fun to be a heel. You know, it's easy to make make people hate you. And then that one, it was Sue Young, same thing. That's what, High Spots, Mike, WrestleCon is owned. That's Mike. That owns High Spots.
Right.
Mike is WrestleCon, but Mike, I was told when I went up to the WrestleCon that I was going to work on the penis party, Joey Ryan's show, penis, it's Mike's show. It's Joey's thing, you know what I mean, and whatever deal they had worked out.
Right.
Them and everything, and I was told I was going to work Joey, so I was like, okay, I'd been on a few shows with him, and Joey, people don't realize he's that gimmick. Joey Ryan's a hell of a worker. He's been working 19 years. He never got notoriety until he started doing that gimmick. And what's he supposed to do? Turn it down? He's making good enough money. He don't have to go to WWE or AEW. So he's doing pretty good. And
I don't think people realize what you said, Tracy, because I'm not the biggest Joey Ryan fan, but I get why people.
No, but he can work. He can wrestle. Right. He's a hell of a worker.
Yeah. I don't think people realize that he had I'll call it a career, but he.
Yeah, he's from California.
This isn't a popular opinion on our show because we got a lot of. I'm a Cornette guy. I love Jimmy, and a lot of our listeners love Jimmy, and Jimmy hates Joey Ryan, obviously. But I just want to say something as you're saying that because I agree. People I know that know Joey Ryan talk about how he actually, and I've seen it. He actually is a really good wrestler. The thing it wasn't until he started doing the dick spot that he started making a lot of money. So.
Well, he was, Mike, he had a long line, and they grabbed his balls for like $30, $40 a shot. Plus, you're selling T-shirts and pictures like crazy. I mean, God almighty, man. What's he supposed to do? Say no?
Right.
You can't blame him. I mean, I understand. I'm old school. And I just said, look, when you go to the bank, they don't ask you how you did it, do they? And he's like, no. And he knew independent people knew, but at first he now I think he kind of fires back. But I mean, anyway, I thought I was going to work with Joey, and they switched it and did a tag. I want to say they did like a 6-man or intergender women involved too, and they put me working Sue Young, and they wanted me to have the same style type match I had with Levi. He said he'd seen that. He said, I want you to do what you did with them. He said, do the same type thing, change it up a little, So that's what I did. And, and it was fun. And because you see a lot of matches you do, it seems to me, where you see a guy working a girl, and they just go out and work like they're working another guy. I thought, no, let's don't do that. Plus, the 2 matches before us one was a 6-man, and they had all them boys doing the lucha type style, flying everywhere, and then like a 6-way or a 3-way dance or something when they were doing all that. And I thought, what in the world? We're not going to go out here and do it. I can't do none of that, and I never could. And, so let's just totally do it, total opposite. I said, and it came off good and got good response, got real good reviews. So, it was fun. And Joey and him did that 6-way thing or whatever it was they did, and they had like balloons, or not balloons, blow up things like penises and all that stuff they did. And, the place went crazy. I loved it. I ate it up. I don't know.
I'm laughing because I know you had briefly talked about this, or you had mentioned it to me in New Orleans at Wildcat X-Rated. So yeah. I'm chuckling because I again I'm not the Joey Ryan fan. I personally think the dick spot is really dumb, but you know what? So the problem is,
it's right. Money, and what's crazy about wrestling is the weirdest things get over. And I've been on shows with him, and he gets a lot of response, and he works it to the T. And and if he went to a big company, they'd water it down and not let him be his own boss on it. And plus, if he's working for a company, they're getting a check there, and then you're taxed different than you would if you know what I mean, when he's doing it under the table. I'm sure he claims what he has to claim, but then again, he don't have to claim a lot, and you know how that is, Uncle Sam.
Yeah.
So he what they offered him, both WWE, he was talking to both of us. I was on a show with him about a month ago, and he said, I don't have much freedom with my character as much, and maybe with AEW, but he said, but money-wise and being on the road and everything, so I'm really kind of better off doing what I'm doing. And that's what he
It's America, and in a capitalist economy. I mean, what are we supposed to? You do what you got to do, Joey. I mean, that's all it is to it.
I said to him, I said, Joey Ryan. I said, I've seen that name and results. I never went on any shows with you until you started doing this. And I said, how long you been working? He told me this a few months ago. He said 19 years. Yeah.
That's amazing when you think about like how long he's actually been at it.
I thought I'd seen your name around for a while and results and things like that, and but he didn't really get a break till he did that.
Amazing, huh? It's like it's crazy because you sit there and think about it. And look, we're not saying he's like the greatest pro wrestler of all time, but I know where Tracy's coming from here. And Tracy, you're an old school guy, so for you to say this and have your thoughts, I mean, it's your thoughts and opinions on.
Well, I thought like until I was on a show with him and met him and just saw how he presented and everything, dude. And I just thought, good Lord, they're eating this up. He's selling gimmicks like crazy. He's getting over. He's getting really good money everywhere he's going. He does other stuff with it. I don't know. He had one shirt, and he said something about get this shirt to buy to the Indies or something like that. When they were all talking to him, he said, "We're ton of them shirts." And then he never left the Indies. Because he didn't have to.
Yeah, hard. That's the thing. It's. Guys like him, or I'm not a big fan of the Young Bucks, although I respect their hustle. What are you supposed to say? They found a way to make money off of it, and it's hard to knock somebody. I don't know. Again,
it's a different era, and I mean, I get everything what Jimmy's saying. I'm totally with, but I mean, everything evolves, and God rest his soul, Brickhouse Brown. I remember being on a show with him in 2011 for the Insane Clown Posse. At the Gathering, and I said, Brick, would you ever think the business would come to how it is now? What we're watching right here in front of our eyes with all the juggalos and everything. And he goes, man, I've learned to just look at it like since Y2K, 2000, everything's got a different spin to it anymore. It ain't just wrestling. He said, it's their spin on what we do. That's the way I've heard him put it,
Everything evolves, I guess, is the way to put it. Yeah. Again, it doesn't mean I have to be a fan of it, but if we're going to be honest, like you said, everything evolves.
Right? Wrestling's like a restaurant, different type of food. You may not like pizza, but you may love hamburgers, right? You may go to Golden Corral and get it all.
Yeah, it evolves. It evolved. Tracy, the one other question Ben had was, he said, what was the craziest thing that you saw from either wrestlers or fans while in ECW as a part of the FBI, Full-Blooded Italians, which that was a heck of a gimmick, I will say. I did enjoy that.
Oh, we would Tommy and I weren't Italian at all. And back then, they didn't really like that, some of them, and Atlas Security, about every one of them boys was Italian. And they were real deal. They were tough guys. People always ask me who's the toughest guy in ECW. I always say Atlas Security. They had boys over there were badass guys, great guys. Every one of them, just super guys. Some of them boys ex-pro football players, martial arts, MMA, all that. And cool guys, and some of them, some white guys, some black guys, some Italians. And every one of them, they love to fight. And they used to tell us, they go, y'all get them riled up so we can kick some ass. You're just laughing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We go out to the show or to the bars, after parties and stuff afterwards. And they'd have us go, and Atlas Security would come, and look, I'm telling you, they punked out the bouncers, the owner, waitress, wherever you want. You didn't have nothing to worry about. As long as they was around. I'm not kidding. And they were cool about it, how they did things, but nobody messed with them. I can remember the Dudleys would really get can't remember exactly. I believe it was Dan Maryland or one of the two. And it was a big arena. And me, myself, Guido, Tommy Rich, and Johnny Rogers, we were standing up on top of the camp because we always like to get a buzz and watch the Dudleys just challenge over, you know, and all everything. It does. Well, somebody threw a chair in and hit Big Dudley. If you remember him,
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, he was a badass guy, Italian. Something else, bench press, was a tough guy. Had done time for involuntary manslaughter. Was a collector. He was not. He's tough, you know, good guy. Good, he really was. Somebody hit him with a chair, threw a chair and hit him in the back of the head. He went off. And Devon and Bubba followed him out, and they were just knocking people the fuck out like crazy. We're standing on top of the like campers. It was campers or something like that. I can't remember. It must have been RVs or something, or maybe a diesel tractor trailer. Some way we were watching it and drinking a few beers, watching them guys. You know, that's what you do because they get them in a riot. And boy, that was security coming. They mowed out of path. I mean, they kicked ass. And I remember Tommy Rogers goes, "You got to go help them." And then Tommy goes, "Don't look like we got to." Oh my God, that was security killing people. You know, I'm serious. They beat up 100 people.
Were you?
They beat up a lot of people.
Oh yeah, I can see
and we're
it.
just watching it, and then the boy NYPD got there, was everywhere, man. Oh my God! And Alex had I think they got Alex, and I took Alex in, and he didn't get out to the next night at the arena, and just in time for his match. You know, and that was real crazy one. Another one there was in Plymouth meeting, Connecticut. Something like that. A big riot got started. Some guys out by the ring did something, and Balls and Axel's match, and I believe they were working the gangsters or Dudleys, maybe Dudleys. I'm not sure, but 80-something cops got called. That's what I remember. 80-something cops. Yeah.
Do you remember?
Stuff like that happened a lot. One time, a guy, something happened, took his punch chain or something like that, and first one got there to him was in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Was Perry Saturn. He just blew his knee out.
Jeez.
yeah. And the whole dressing room just knocked the curtain down. Everything.
You were on Heatwave 98 in ECW when Bubba cut that scathing promo.
Marietta, Georgia, was it?
No, that one was the one in
Hold on one second. Okay, I can't remember where it was, but I think I know what you're talking about.
Dayton, Ohio, at the Harrah Arena.
Oh yeah.
That was the one.
We were on the dark match. We weren't on the pay-per-view that night. We were on the dark match.
Right.
But,
do you remember Bubba's promo that
ball.
night, though?
I can remember. Yeah, Bubba did a lot. Oh man. Yeah.
Oh, where Bubba told the woman in the front row, we got a woman here who taught her daughter how to suck dick, and that was just part of what he.
I can't remember how it all went, but yeah.
Bubba was getting them involved, man.
Another one. My first night there, I worked with Taz, and I had already worked, and I believe I can't remember what point we were on the card. I'm not sure. At the arena at Philly, they had upstairs there, and and you could go out and kind of watch the matches from up there. And all I can remember was New Jack. He goes, "Who are you?" And the guy said something. Said something, caught off his name. He goes, "Jack beat his ass all the way down the stairs. I mean, beat the hell out of this guy. And this guy was trying to get away, and the whole dressing room come after him. I ain't never seen a man run that fast. That guy was gone, and everybody chasing him, and everything. And that was my first night there. I was like, oh my God! But oh God, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Sure did. That kid was running for his life, man. That boy was. He's a pretty big old boy. A black guy, and he came. I don't know how he got in there. There was one little place you could kind of crawl under, dude. I believe that's how he got in there. And as big as he was, I don't know how he did it, but he did it. And yeah, Jack beat it. Oh God, that was crazy. That guy, he down the stairs and did something, and I don't remember. Jack beat him up all the way down the stairs. I don't know how it worked and did. And some way he got away from Jack, and he was gone. Everybody was chasing him.
Wow.
Yeah. Another night at the arena. You remember Two Coat Scorpio? Remember him, Scorp?
Oh yeah, I
Scorpio.
remember.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, Tammy, something happened. Tammy and Chris was leaving the arena, and these guys were somewhere next door or somewhere in another part of the building, and they weren't wrestling fans, and they got into it with Tammy. Said something to crude stuff to Tammy. Of course, Tammy had that mouth, and she smarted back, and then they all come after her. Chris just kind of covered her and didn't want, keep her. He didn't fight. He just was trying to keep from. And I think Sabu was in the area, and Sabu nailed a few of them. And all I remember was running outside, and I saw Big Alex, Big Dick Dudley, chasing guys. They were running like scalded dogs from him. He was whopping anybody in sight he could get his hands on. And then I turned around to my left, and I can remember in about 20, 30 feet from me, Two Coat Scorpio was just knocking people the fuck out. He was, you ever remember that Rock'em Sock'em Robots?
Yeah.
Bam, 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 just dropping people. That's what it looked like. And I just saw, I thought, first thing, you help the boys. And Alex was up over here, and all I could remember was, and I don't really, I blacked out because I was just trying to help, because we were way outnumbered. And the next thing I remembered was, and Scorp looked at me, and I said, "You all right, Scorp?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I was right there with you." And I said, "No, I was with you." I said, "I don't even remember what I did." But they said I was fighting, but I honest to God, I do not. All I remember is trying to survive. And Tommy Dreamer was telling me, calm down, it's over. And I was just you were just wired, and the cops were coming from all directions. There's stuff like that all the time.
Yeah, that was the norm in ECW, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't. I mean, it happened so much. 20 more stories I can tell you. I just can't think of them right now. I'm serious. Crazy. But yeah. I'll tell you what, none of them want to mess with Atlas security.
It's funny you say that, but based on everything you're telling me, ECW needed Atlas security. I mean, there was no doubt they had to have those guys there because of the because of the craziness that was going on in ECW.
Oh man, and they would. We had an after party, they invite us out to the bar, sponsors, whatever it was. They always went to bar too, same way, man. Them bouncers didn't mess with you. Then nobody messed with you. Nobody messed with them guys around. They all had jobs, they had whatever things, and that was their getaway to go out party on the weekend. Their expenses were paid, and they just went out and have a good time, and they still do, I guess, they still do. They still do stuff with wrestling and other things too. I mean, they're Ronnie, I can't remember his last name, the guy who runs it, and God, I remember he had a broken arm or something, and something happened. I can't remember. I was in the match, and I don't remember exactly what happened. The first guy getting to the guy was Ronnie. He had a broken arm. His arms were cast, and he was belting people. Oh God! Yeah.
Oh man, I could listen. That was ET.
He did. It really was.
Awesome. Oh man, no, that's
it's a different.
Really
those kind
stuff.
of things can't happen. You can't. That's in the '90s. You can't even have an argument with somebody no more. You go to jail. You know what I mean? No.
Yeah, you can't do it, man. With Twitter and Facebook and everything, you ain't nothing. Nothing like that's ever gonna happen again. That was, in fact, Tracy, the '90s. Was the end to that. That was when it ended.
Yeah. Well, like everybody gets offended over everything. The social media too, you know what I mean? Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everything. Nobody talks on the phone or in person no more. It's either, on one of those things, text, and all, and things get out of context, I guess is the word to say. And,
Yeah.
I mean, you got them worrying about Black Mermaid and stuff like that. I mean, come on. But when they talk about all that, you know what? But you know what too? You know how the media is and the government. They don't want racism will never die. You know why? Because it draws money, it draws viewers, it draws ratings, it draws period. It keeps people's interest, and it's all a big diversion to keep up what's really going on. You know, and they keep everybody at each other's throats. And, you know, I mean, you know what I mean? You know,
division is a work in itself. You're actually talking about something that Doc and I and Harper and I talk about on the show a lot of times. And I always use the term. I get it from Bobby Blaze a little bit, but we always say it's hashtag it's all a work, hashtag everything's a work. We don't really mean everything, but you know, it's like 98% of everything is a work.
You know what I mean? In different avenues. You know what it is?
Right.
You know what I mean? You know.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I don't know. Well, I'll tell you this. I was told this in the TNA there when Kurt Angle was there. Well, do you remember when they had Pac-Man Jones and they had him doing some stuff with wrestling? He was suspended from football.
Yep, I remember that.
Kurt, they said Kurt in front of all the boys at a TV or pay-per-view, whatever, asked him, he says, is pro football a work? And Pac-Man said, well, I'll put it like this. He said, anything with money involved, and it's professional. Figure it out. You know? And I thought that was the best answer I've ever heard, because, you know, like in football and basketball, look at New Orleans Saints. Come on, man.
That's my team, Tracy. So let's talk about that. That call.
That pass into my God.
Was that a work?
You know, oh God. And I don't get it. Why did they do that?
Because they got the team from Los Angeles that they need to get into the Super Bowl. They want it. Yeah. It's a big market. We got to get them in there. They get in there, and it doesn't matter at that point if they win or lose. The fact is, the team from LA is now in the Super Bowl. But if you can, and I'm laughing because you brought that up at the X-Rated show because you were getting on the fans of New Orleans talking about we need to stop.
Yeah. So they don't deserve it. Oh yeah, I'm being a heel and giving good because you know. I mean, I actually love Drew Brees. I remember when he played Purdue. You know, he's great. You know, yeah. And I ain't gonna tell them that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I'm there to get them brought up. That's my job. You know, and but yeah, man, that got heat, didn't it? When I said that,
got heat. And then you had mentioned something about Anthony Davis. Zion and Anthony Davis leaving New Orleans, and then the fans were chanting Tracy sucks. The Tracy sucks. Tracy sucks. And then after you won the match, you grabbed the microphone and said, "Who sucks now, motherfuckers?" Yeah, I actually got that on video. I've got that on video. I should send it to you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, if you will, please send it if you got the audio of that.
I'll send it to you. I got a clip of it.
That's all I'd love to keep. You know, if you tag me in it, please. I love doing that. I absolutely that's one of my favorite shows to do. To work for Luke there, and to me, that's one of the best places, independent shows that you'll work is Wildcat. And I hope they grow and expand. And you know, I only try to go like Philly and Georgia, but if I tell you, to me, if they can run Louisiana, you know what I mean? You know, all the major towns. Bill Watson did it forever, you know. You got to have people with the legwork up there, you know. And,
I'm glad you brought it up because, like, Harper is my co-host, and obviously he works for Wildcat, and I've known Luke for many years, and since the early 2000s. I remember when Luke was 160 pounds wrestling. Let me just say that.
I do too. He worked at ECW. Him, Kevin Northcutt, and Rodney. You know Rodney, Jazz Rodney.
I know Rodney. And
they worked at ECW when they were young. Yeah.
I knew Kevin and I used to work together on the Indies. I didn't know I know Rodney, but he and I never worked together. But Kevin I knew Kevin from far back as 1995, 1996. So I'd known Kevin for a long time. I met Luke after that. But yeah, I remember Luke being 160 pounds and ECW being in town and all that good stuff. Yeah. So, long time ago, man. But I am glad that Wildcat does well. And I tell you what, Tracy, tell the people I'm not blowing smoke. They draw at that show at that X-ray.
Yeah. Oh man, what a show! It's a live show. That big bar, and they just what an atmosphere. And he's got some bunch of guys there that can go. That people should know. You know what I mean? You know, I'm not good with names. I'm not Spade.
Yep, Jay Spade. He's real good.
Yes, man. He's unreal. I worked with him before. You know, Buku and that big tall black kid. I can't think of his name. And then the other kid, the boys I worked with in the three-way.
Oh, Danny Flamingo.
Boys. Yeah, Danny, and then another kid. And several more. You know, Luke's son has come a long way. He got a lot bigger, and they got a good thing going. They get somebody leg work that could, you know, promote these towns. I mean, you guys could run Houma, Thibodaux, Baton Rouge, you know, Lafayette, Lake Charles, all them towns. Bill Watts ran them for years. He's run them every 2 weeks.
Yep, that's well, you know, Tracy, you got to realize,
that's
man,
where your stronghold is there. You know what I mean? Is where that area.
Well, I grew up. That's what I'm saying. I grew up watching Mid-South. You know, Mid-South from I became a fan in 1981. I mean, that's how old I am. So I grew up. You know, 81 through. I remember
was it Monday night? They'd run that old building in New Orleans, Auditorium.
Downtown Municipal.
Yeah. Junkyard Dog was a big deal there, boy, big time. You know,
hey, when you came in to work for Watts in '86, were they weren't still running the downtown municipal at that point?
He was going to they were running at that college, Lake
Arena. Yeah, Lakefront Arena, UNO. That's what I thought.
That's it. Yep. Yeah, they weren't running it. They quit running it. I don't know how long it had been, but it had
been a couple years, I think.
ECW ran that building.
The downtown municipal?
It was either ECW or it was somebody, an independent show. I worked it, I believe. No, it was WCW. WCW.
That's what I thought.
That building for WCW.
Yeah, WCW ran
it. The Steiners there. I remember that. What a building for wrestling that was. We worked Steiners about 3 months.
Man, hey Tracy, that building was perfect for wrestling.
Oh boy, it was great. What an atmosphere. Real dark, old style, you know.
Yeah.
You know, that's wrestling. You know what I mean? That's how people, you know, that's type building for wrestling all the way.
That building was great for wrestling. That building was great.
A lot of them buildings even left, you know, they're tearing them down right and left.
Well, you know, that's the thing about the municipal, that building, the downtown one in New Orleans, man, it's been basically hollow since Hurricane Katrina. And you know, they haven't figured out what they're gonna do with it, man. It's all messed up on the inside, you know, nothing's happening down there anymore. They're still trying to determine what they're gonna do with the building, but it's vacant and it's basically rotting away as we speak.
Wow, could Luke and them run it?
No, it's in need of major repairs. Yeah, it's not condemned, but it's not in good shape. I mean, it's broken glass. The windows are broken. It's sealed
today's
up.
Luke's birthday. Say hello. Say happy birthday to Luke. I wished him happy birthday on Facebook. Happy birthday, Luke.
I sent him. I sent the little bastard a text and told him happy birthday.
Yeah. He worked hard.
Yeah, but they couldn't run that building because of you know, it's like I said, it's just not in shape to run. But who knows, man? I mean, you know, they're doing some good things, so hopefully they'll continue to progress. And you know, Harper gets out there and he gets the people going in his role, and it's a good time whenever I go to one of the shows, man. I like what they do.
Yeah, good atmosphere, real good.
Yeah, sure is.
So cool.
Well, Tracy, I don't have any more questions for you. I think I covered them all. I appreciate your time again, man. This was a lot of fun. You know, it's always good to talk some old school wrestling with you and talk about even, you know, we talked some new stuff tonight, man. You wanna tell the people where to find you on Facebook or whatever?
Yeah, I'm at Tracy Smothers 70 at yahoo.com, something like that. Facebook, the one me that's standing talking on the mic. But you know, things like that. Not hard to find on there. There's a few of them that athlete thing they do. That ain't even me. I don't know who does that. Can I plug some shows I got coming up? Can I plug that?
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm going to drop this just so you know. We're recording this on the 8th of July. I'm probably going to drop this in about a week and a half once I get it edited and uploaded. So.
Okay. So it wouldn't this Saturday. It wouldn't be on there anyway, right?
No, I won't have it up in time.
The following week.
Yeah, the
week of the 20th. Well, the 18th,
go.
I'm doing custom tape down in Columbia, Tennessee with Jesse Bell. Then the 19th, I'm on the show in Columbia, Tennessee. July 19th, I can't remember the building. July 20th, I'm in Clarksville, Tennessee. And then July 21st, I'm working for Brett Lauderdale and Joey Janela in Nashville on Sunday. And then 27th, I'm in Evansville, Indiana for New Focus. And then I think the 30th, I'm at a fair somewhere in Kentucky for Jimmy Walls, Rated X. I can't remember actually. I think I'm at the Gathering on the 2nd, and then I'm over here in Owensboro, Kentucky for WWA on the 3rd of August. The Gathering, the Juggalos.
So, you stay busy, man. I will say that you're constantly ripping and going, Tracy. Even at this
Saturday, I'm in Jackson, Tennessee. Sunday, I'm in Knoxville. But I try to keep going. It's hard. 26 plus 30 now.
Are you doing WrestleCade this year?
No one has contacted me yet. There's one that's going to get back with me, and I think I'm going to be there, but you know how it is. I don't know. As far as I know, I'm there, but zippy on a couple of things, I believe. I don't know. We've had
gotcha.
A few people, so we'll see.
Gotcha. No, I figured I'd ask. I keep getting asked if I'm going to attend one day, just to go as a fan.
It's a good time. It's a good time.
Well, were you there for the Smoky Mountain thing that they did 2 years ago?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Of course, Jimmy, Bobby Blaze, Bobby Fulton, Tom Pritchard, Dutch Mantel, and myself. We're all there. Yeah.